The season 2 begins with Makoto heading to the city of Rosgard. Right now, he's in Obit City and he's tired from walking. Shiki tells him that walking is better than getting caught by the goddess while teleporting. Makoto blames everything on the goddess. Shiki says they're almost in Rosgard and promises to find a good inn for them. He asks Makoto to grab some food while he sorts that out. Makoto is okay with any, but Shiki wants a nice one because Tomo and Mio will be upset if he picks a cheap one. Makoto wonders if leaving them in charge of the demiplane was a good idea. The story then switches to the demiplane. Tomo discovers that Mio is interested in cooking and wants to make something Makoto likes. Tomo gets why but wonders how a simple taste test went so wrong. Mio doesn't know, and Tomo is glad she had Makoto's food tested for poison. Mio is offended and asks if Tomo is calling her food poison. She made curry rice based on Makoto's memories, but Tomo asks if she's ever eaten curry rice before. Mio says no because it's from another world, and she didn't ask Makoto for the recipe to surprise him. Emma asks if the green thing in the curry is an ore, and Mio says yes, thinking it would taste great. Bayan realizes she put soft emerald in the curry. Kamo mentions there's even a piece of the pot's handle in it, and Mio sees the pot has melted. Mio tastes the curry herself and thinks it's not terrible, but Tomo tells her that in their world, people and Makoto don't eat mineral ores, weapons, or buildings. Mio is shocked to learn these aren't considered food. Tomo asks if Mio knows how to cook, and she says she at least knows how to use fire. Tomo asks her to make slightly burned toast, but Mio burns it completely. Tomo says Mio has a lot to learn about cooking. The scene shifts back to Makoto, who's eating some blue meat at a restaurant. The owner asks him not to make a disgusted face while eating because his face is already unpleasant. Makoto overhears a conversation about Moon over the ruined castle and thinks it's a song. He later learns it's the name of a dangerous group of bandits. The girl wonders why nobody is willing to take on a quest to fight these bandits, even though she's willing to pay for it. The receptionist explains that these bandits are very fierce, and there are more than 100 of them. The guild doesn't have enough strong fighters to deal with them right now, so the girl is told to come back next month when they'll have more help. She's upset and wonders if they've been abandoned by their goddess. Some guys try to take advantage of the girl, but she runs out of the guild in tears, and Makoto notices this. Later, Makoto is in an alley and regrets paying with a gold coin. He uses his abilities to sense that 3 people have followed him from the restaurant, and he also sees that people from the guild are bothering the girl he saw earlier. Makoto defeats the guys from the restaurant and protects the girl by throwing them at the adventurers who were troubling her. Makoto defeats the remaining adventurers who were causing trouble. The girl, Rana, wonders if he helped them because he's a demi-human like her friend Ido. Makoto clarifies that he's human and uses his abilities to heal Ido's injury. Makoto introduces himself as an adventurer but mainly a merchant. Rana thanks Makoto for saving them and introduces herself as Rana from Tapa village. Her friend, Ido, is a werewolf, but he's different from the werewolves Makoto had imagined. Makoto offers to carry Ido for her, and they start heading towards Rana's village. Makoto asks Rana about the bandits she mentioned earlier. Rana explains that the bandits attacked their village recently and brutally tortured their strongest member, Parley, to make an example. Now, the villagers are giving up their money and savings. She says every village they've visited suffered the same fate, and her village is in danger too. Ido wakes up and asks Rana if the guild will send help. Rana sadly reveals that the guild refused. Makoto reflects on the commonality of death in this world and realizes he hasn't fully accepted it yet. He decides to help them and asks Rana where her village is. Rana points to the mountains, and Makoto surprises them by jumping over to her village with Rana and Ido. The scene then shifts to Tapa village, where Rana wants to thank Makoto properly. She asks him to wait while she informs the villagers about their arrival. Makoto wonders if Ido won't go after Rana, and Ido is surprised that Makoto can speak the werewolf language. Ido explains that it wouldn't be right for a demi-human to enter a human village. He mentions that his village is in the woods ahead, but Rana and some villagers are close by. Makoto uses his investigative skills to check the village and notices that the bandits have killed some people again. Makoto mentions that he knew Ido was awake when he was carrying him and wonders if Ido pretended to be unconscious because he felt responsible for putting Rana in danger. Ido agrees, and Makoto asks him to keep Rana safe if he wants to be with her. Makoto uses his investigative skills again and finds out that the bandits are currently in the mountains. He decides to go after them, ignoring Ido's warning. Ido asks Makoto why he's doing all this. Makoto explains that Moon over the ruined castle is the name of a song in his country, and he loves it. He doesn't like a group of bandits using that name, and he believes it's reason enough to stop them. He leaves to confront the bandits. The scene shifts to other residents of the demiplane trying Mio's cooking again, but the results are still not good. Mio used premium ingredients this time and is puzzled by the outcome. Tomo notices that the dishes don't look or taste right and explains that great ingredients don't guarantee great taste. She points out that different races have different preferences, and the residents share what kind of food they like. Mio realizes that cooking requires deep knowledge. Tomo suggests that Mio travel the world to improve her cooking skills, and Mio agrees, deciding to embark on a culinary journey for the sake of the young master. Everyone is happy with her decision. Tomo decides to start her own investigation to keep the young master out of trouble. The scene shifts to the bandits in the forest, planning their next move. Makoto puts on his mask to hide his identity, and uses a special power to silence all sounds around them. The bandit leader is surprised by the sudden silence, and Makoto starts shooting the bandits one by one. While he's shooting, Makoto reflects on his vow to stay out of human affairs, yet here he is, eliminating bandits to protect humans. He realizes that he acted on his emotions when he hesitated. After thinning the bandits' numbers, he realizes he hasn't killed them but only knocked them out. Makoto puts away his bow and uses fire magic to deal with the remaining bandits, causing an explosion that catches the villagers' attention. He tells the bandit leader that he won't kill them and asks them to change their group's name from Moon over the ruined castle. The scene shifts to the villagers finding the bandits tied to a tree. Rana asks Ito if Makoto did this, and Ito confirms it. She thanks the goddess for Makoto's help. Later, Makoto is with Shiki, who asks where he's been all day. Makoto says he was taking care of business, and asks if Shiki has found an inn. Shiki says he has, but it costs 3 gold coins a night. Shiki then mentions that the other heroes Makoto mentioned earlier have been well received in Linnea Kingdom and Gratonia Empire. He thinks it's unfair that Makoto is living a frugal life. Makoto explains that he saw other heroes when he was teleported to the battlefield and wonders if he'll ever meet them again. The story takes us back in time to the days before Makoto was summoned to another world. Makoto is just going about his usual day at school when a girl named Hibiki Otanashi approaches him. She points out that there's a mistake in the date on the document he received from the student council, and swaps it with the correct one. Makoto thanks her and leaves. Hibiki knows that Makoto, despite being called a hero, is just an average guy among a group of handsome student council members. Hibiki envies Makoto a bit because, for her, life has always been easy. She can achieve whatever she wants with little effort, and everything seems to go smoothly. But she finds her life boring. Then, unexpectedly, Hibiki gets summoned to another world. She's confused about where she is, and a goddess explains that she's in a different world. The goddess tells her that the world she's from is under attack by demons, facing a crisis like never before. The goddess hopes that Hibiki can help and plans to send her and another person as heroes. She offers to give Hibiki some special powers, but Hibiki declines the offer, saying she has plenty of friends and a smooth life. The goddess asks if she wants to spend her life with friends who she doesn't have a deep connection with. Hibiki asks what the goddess means. The goddess explains that the world Hibiki is in right now is limited, and she probably longs for a friend who will always support her in a life worth taking risks for. This intrigues Hibiki, and the goddess promises to bless her with powerful magic, increased physical strength, charismatic leadership, and a divine item. She gives Hibiki a silver belt and sends her to Linnea Kingdom, expressing high hopes for her. Meanwhile, in Linnea Kingdom, the king receives a prophecy from the goddess about the descendants of a hero, and he believes it's a chance to finally free the kingdom from the torment of the demons. Hibiki is suddenly teleported to a kingdom where many people have gathered to welcome her. The goddess introduces her as the hero and asks everyone to treat her well. Hibiki finds it hard to believe that she's in another world, and she's not sure if this is all the goddess has to say. Meanwhile, Makoto is still wandering in the wastelands, and there's no one to welcome him. Days after Hibiki's arrival, she looks at a map of the continent that resembles Japan. She learns that the demons were pushed into a barren land by the goddess's people, but they've been expanding their territory for a decade. This expansion led to the downfall of the kingdom of Elshin, and now the Limea kingdom has allied with the Gratonia Empire to form a last line of defense. Hibiki remembers that the officials didn't like it when she mentioned there's another hero in the Gratonia Empire. She understands that neighboring countries might not be friendly, and she prepares for the worst after the war with the demons ends. She also recalls that the belt the goddess gave her has a wolf spirit inside, which surprises her. Tomorrow, she has to choose her party members from a group of mercenaries. Based on the king's recommendations, the confirmed members are the court magician Woody and a rising star among the knights named Norst. Hibiki starts to suspect favoritism in the selection of her party members. The next day, during the recruitment process, a girl named Navel notices Hibiki and thinks she doesn't seem like a battle-hardened warrior. Navel tries to leave, but the court magician Woody stops her, questioning her decision. Navel expresses her disinterest in being a bodyguard for an elite student and just wants to kill demons. She attempts to leave again, but Hibiki stops her. Hibiki recognizes Navel as one of the strongest fighters present and asks her to join her party. She wants Navel to train her in swordplay and be her battle partner, promising they'll kill many demons together on the front lines. Navel hesitates, but Hibiki whispers to her that she knows Navel desires to slay demons, and by joining her, she'll have plenty of opportunities on the front lines. Hibiki assures Navel won't get bored and mentions it's better than rejecting her offer and potentially not being allowed to stay in the country. Navel accepts Hibiki's offer. A knight named Norse finds Hibiki beautiful and wants to find a way to stay close to her. Meanwhile, Makoto is shown fighting a dragon that becomes enamored with him. The scene shifts to the Linnea Kingdom's border, where Hibiki and her party are supposed to pick up a priestess from the Laurel Commonwealth. They notice the priestess's carriage in trouble, surrounded by kobolds, creatures that grow stronger by consuming mana. Ruddy, a member of Hibiki's party, is impressed by the priestess's ability to fend off the kobolds with her shield. Navel notices 4 kobolds and suggests they each take one out quickly to prevent them from summoning reinforcements with a scream. Navel asks Hibiki if she'll be okay since she hasn't slain a monster before, and Hibiki assures them she will. They attack kobolds, managing to defeat one. However, when Hibiki hesitates to deliver a fatal blow, the kobold pleads for mercy, summoning reinforcements with its screams. More kobolds arrive, overwhelming the party and nearly breaking the priestess's barrier. Feeling responsible, Hibiki becomes enraged and slays the kobolds, leading the party to defeat the rest. Despite the victory, Hibiki is distraught over the carnage caused. Navel praises her for a first attempt, and the priestess, Chia, thanks her for saving them. Chia surprises everyone by asking to join the hero's party. Attempting to dissuade her, the party is shocked when Chia cuts her hair, explaining it's to prevent her people from thinking she was harmed by Limia's residents. Hibiki's party members are taken aback by Chia's seemingly threatening gesture. Chia clarifies her goal to end the war, and Hibiki finds her approach contradictory. Hibiki mentions Chia shouldn't have cut her beautiful hair, but Chia insists it would hinder her in battle. When Haki and Navel suggest cutting their hair as well, Chia reassures them they don't need to, as they are already strong. The scene shifts to him playing video games at home, still feeling annoyed about earlier events, and he throws his game away. While lying down, he spots an isekai novel nearby, thinking that having special powers in another world might make him brave. The goddess summons him to her world, introducing herself and explaining that monsters threaten her realm. She asks him to become a hero and save her world. Assuring him not to worry, the goddess mentions sending another person with similar powers. Tomoki inquires about the powers he will receive, and the goddess describes a body capable of fighting monsters, magical abilities surpassing demons, a compelling devil eye, and silver boots granting flight and fatigue relief. Tomoki sees these as cheat skills, almost like a dream, and asks if there's more. The goddess adds the ability to have an undying body at night, but this power only works when the moon is out. Tomoki wants the goddess to change his appearance, and she agrees. She transforms his look and sends him to the Gratinia Empire. Princess Lily Flank Gratinia welcomes him, introducing herself as the second princess. Tomoki also introduces himself, and Lily suggests moving to a better location for a conversation. On the way, a female knight named Genibia asks Lily about a prophecy, and Lily introduces Tomoki. Tomoki comments on Genibia's role as a female knight, unintentionally using his devil eye on her. This causes Genibia to be attracted to him, overlooking his rudeness. Lily notices this and takes Tomoki for level and magical item compatibility tests. After the tests, Tomoki feels tired, and Lily promises to send someone to show him around the castle at night. She advises him to rest, and later, Lily consults a doctor about Tomoki's results. The doctor reveals Tomoki has a magical eye-enhancing charm effects, prompting Lily to seek help in neutralizing its impact on her and the royal family. She urges the doctor to keep this information confidential, expressing her dislike for the hero's innocent appearance. Tomoki then asks Lily what she thought about him when she first saw him. Lily replies that she knew he was the hero destined to lead them to greatness, praising him as a great hero admired by everyone. She expresses her admiration by kissing him, and the two spend the night together. Lily reflects that she is willing to sacrifice anything to eradicate the demons, driven by her mother's belief in the wayward goddess. Meanwhile, during these events, Makoto enters into a contract with the Black Spider. Later, Tomoki returns to the palace after a battle, and Lily praises his performance. They plan to reclaim Fort Stellar from the demons and form an alliance with Linnea for their next battle. Tomoki expresses his loyalty to Lily, but her smile suggests hidden motives. The story shifts to Hibiki and her party at an army camp near Fort Stellar. They learn about an upcoming ball, which Hibiki believes will also involve discussions about the strategy to retake the fort. Mabel explains that the ball is meant to boost the army's morale, and she mentions that the hero from Gratonia is seeking the goddess's blessing, which could give humans an advantage in battles against demihumans or demons. Hibiki appears concerned, and Navel asks if she's nervous about meeting Gratonia's hero. Hibiki admits that meeting the other hero, who is around her age and from her world, is one of her worries. Later, they meet Princess Lily and Tomoki, who explain the battle plan. Lily mentions that while they received supplies and reinforcements from King Aeon, the support from Laurel is less than expected, likely due to the situation with Chia. However, she assures them that their combat strength is 5 times that of the demons, and with the goddess's blessing, victory should be assured. Hibiki asks why the battle is set for nighttime, and Tomoki explains that they excel in night battles, even though Hibiki's party lacks experience in them. Tomoki believes that the goddess's blessing will boost their strength and weaken the demons. He emphasizes the importance of quickly reclaiming the fort to earn the goddess's praise and suggests they relax and chat. Hibiki then asks Tomoki if they've met in the real world, and he confirms they haven't. Hibiki remembers that Tomoki shares the same name as a famous model her friends like, and Tomoki clarifies that he has no connection to that person. Hibiki apologizes for the mistake, and Tomoki insists he's not upset. He then asks Hibiki about her level, and she mentions it's 430. Tomoki shares that his level is 603, and Hibiki wonders why he's suddenly boasting about it. She comments on his hard work, and Tomoki suggests she call him Mr. Tomoki instead of using his first name. Hibiki agrees, thinking it's a bit strange considering he encouraged them to be relaxed and chat. Tomoki decides he'll use her first name since he's not good with honorifics. Later, Hibiki gazes at the sky, and Navel asks what's on her mind. Hibiki expresses her concern that they might be in over their heads. Navel asks Hibiki why she came to this world, and Hibiki explains that in her previous world, she was born into a privileged family where success came easily. Navel acknowledges that Hibiki gives off that vibe but is surprised that she's now on the battlefield. Hibiki mentions her emotional reaction when she couldn't bring herself to kill the Kabul and says it was the first time she faced defeat and had to trust someone else with her life. She acknowledges that they'll encounter even greater challenges and surprises, but has no regrets about coming to this world. They decide to rest for the night as they have a battle ahead. The scene shifts to Tomoki and the soldiers praying for the goddess's blessing the next night. After that, the demon army's commander, Rona, receives information about the movements of Linian and Gratonia troops. She notes that they have received the goddess's blessing and are advancing as expected. Rona prepares to enter the battle and instructs a soldier to inform Io about their plans. The human army is marching forward, and Woody warns his party to watch out for enemy traps in this dangerous terrain. They've lost many knights and mages along this route before. Suddenly, the demon army attacks. Tomoki orders his troops to engage in combat, and they start fighting the demon soldiers. Most of the demons are defeated quite easily, and Hibiki notices that their enemies seem weaker than expected. She recalls being told it was impossible to reach the fort through this path and asks Chai to set up a protective barrier. Woody also casts a levitation spell for faster movement as a precaution. The human army manages to reach the fort's gates and opens them. Rona, the demon army's commander, notices the two heroes are in range and decides it's time to test their strengths. She uses a magic array to make the entire human army fall into a giant pitfall. However, Hibiki's party survives due to Woody's earlier levitation spell. Tomoki also survives thanks to his flying boots, and he counters Rona's magic attack with his divine lance attack. Tomoki is relieved to see his party members are okay, as Yukonatsu created replicas of his boots for them. Tomoki then summons the dragon Nagi and attacks the fort while riding it. Rona realizes the dragon's firepower is formidable but knows they need more to capture the fort. Tomoki lands inside the fort and asks Mor and Yukonatsu for support while charging ahead with Genebia. They encounter Io, and Tomoki attacks him without introducing himself. Io comments on the rudeness of attacking without proper introductions, but Tomoki says manners don't matter in battle, and strikes again, damaging one of Io's arms. Hibiki joins the fight, introducing herself, and Io reveals himself as the general of the Demon Lord's 3rd Legion. Io astonishes them by instantly regenerating his lost arm. He then uses a ring to nullify the goddess's blessing on the heroes, weakening both of them. Tomoki realizes that he could die from damage in his current state. He suggests they retreat, leaving Hibiki concerned that he might leave her to fight alone. The scene shifts to Mio and Tomo embarking on their own journeys. Mio expresses a wish to talk to Makoto. Tomo speculates if Mio intends to surprise him with her culinary discovery. Mio reveals her destination, a port town called Kirin, where she plans to find seaweed and kelp for the Japanese-style cooking Makoto enjoys. Mia suggests that Tomo is heading to investigate the location where Makoto fought the Dragon Slayer. Tomo confirms, mentioning a giant lake that appeared after the fight, prompting her curiosity. Mio feels lonely, but Tomo assures her it won't last long. She shares news from Shiki that Makoto has reached the town of Rosgar and should return to the demiplane once settled. The narrative then shifts to Makoto and Shiki in Rosgard, where they notice various stores and products. They witness a girl being bullied, and Makoto, concerned, tries to intervene. However, his inability to communicate with humans hinders his efforts as the bullies don't notice him. Makoto urges Shiki to intervene. The bullies mock them for their academy uniforms. Makoto thinks Mio and Tomo might suggest killing them, but Shiki wouldn't. The guys insult Makoto and Shiki, triggering a request to convince them to leave. Shiki asks if he can kill them, but Makoto rejects violence. Shiki proposes convincing them to leave, warning them he'll kill if they don't. The bullies use wind magic to levitate, surprised that Makoto doesn't attack. Shiki counters with earth magic, causing them to float. Makoto, using a counterspell, dispels the magic, leaving them levitating. Makoto advises the girl to leave if she's unharmed, but she claims she didn't ask for help. Makoto assures her no favors are owed. Learning she works at the Five Irons restaurant, she invites Makoto to try their hot pots to repay his kindness. Makoto plans to visit later. Meanwhile, the bullies remain levitating, as Shiki suggests leaving them until they run out of mana. Makoto urges Shiki to save the bullies using his magic. Shiki complies but makes them fall, prompting the bullies to run away and threaten revenge. Makoto believes Shiki needs to mature and handle situations better. Shiki points out that stopping such incidents is difficult, advising against involvement. Although Makoto agrees, he's troubled by the girl's distressed expression. Shiki apologizes for his previous remarks, and Makoto suggests focusing on finding a way into the academy for now. With the entrance exam approaching in 3 days, Makoto plans to take it to be recognized as a local resident. Shiki inquires if Makoto will take the exam, and Makoto explains that passing it is essential for him to be acknowledged and obtain a permit for setting up a store in the town. Shiki reveals to Makoto that he won't be taking the entrance exam, but instead the lecturer qualification exam, which sparks Makoto's curiosity about the role. Shiki clarifies that passing this exam would make Makoto eligible to become a teacher. Examining the documents from Rembrandt, Shiki asserts that it is indeed the lecturer qualification exam. Meanwhile, Rembrandt speculates that Makoto has likely arrived in Rosgard. He notices Morris struggling with small writings and considers the possibility of presbyopia, an age-related vision issue. Morris argues that he can read familiar texts without any issues. Rembrandt suggests getting Morris prescription glasses to avoid mistakes in handling documents. The story transitions to the day of the lecturer qualification examination, and Makoto reflects on how he might have avoided it if Rembrandt hadn't recommended him. As a staff member begins explaining the rules to Makoto, he interrupts to ask about other job opportunities at the academy. The staff member becomes annoyed at Makoto's question and scolds him, revealing that others have made similar inquiries before. Shiki, angered by the staff member's behavior, drains some of his life force. Makoto intervenes to prevent further escalation and apologizes on behalf of Shiki. A woman arrives, apologizing for the staff member's behavior and emphasizing that negative comments about examinees are strictly forbidden. She acknowledges that Makoto's inquiry might not have been well-timed but assures him that it was a mistake on their part. She proceeds to check Makoto's documents and notices his proficiency in combat techniques. Considering his letter of recommendation from Rembrandt Trading Company, she asks Makoto whether he prefers the written or practical exam. Shiki, making the choice for Makoto, opts for the practical-only exam, which is known to be the most challenging. The woman explains that only a few people have passed this rigorous exam, leaving Makoto surprised by the difficulty level. The scene sets the stage for Makoto's challenging examination and his quest to become a teacher at the academy. The story shifts to the examiner explaining the rules of the 3-day exam. Each examinee is given 2 items, a feather for returning to the exam venue and a bell for forfeiting. They are prohibited from battling each other, though they may encounter monsters in the area. To pass, they must collect 3 high-speed balls within 3 days and bring them back to the academy. The examiner emphasizes that examinees can borrow any weapon but must prepare their own food. Makoto finds the task seemingly simple, with details in the manual provided. The scene transitions to Makoto at the exam venue, where he uses Perception Kai to observe abundant resources compared to his initial summoning location. Noticing other examinees far away, Makoto discovers a red ball. Consulting the manual, he learns that balls stop moving after taking enough damage, with specific attack methods designated. The red ball, vulnerable to physical damage, breaks when Makoto punches it, surprising him. He then spots a yellow ball, susceptible to magical attacks. Despite using a bird to attack, the yellow ball also breaks. Makoto finally notices a blue ball, which can only be damaged by ranged attacks. Using a bow, he damages the blue ball, only to witness it break as well. Makoto reflects on the failed attempts to damage the high-speed balls, considering whether his boosting spell might be the cause. Even after undoing the spell, the balls continue to break upon contact, leaving him without progress on the first day. Frustrated, he sets up a barrier causing pain to deter monsters, and goes to sleep. The next day, Makoto discovers defeated monsters outside the barrier, indicating others in the vicinity. After dealing with the monsters, he checks on the remaining examinees and notices the absence of the elf, contemplating if they have already finished. Trying to capture a blue ball, Makoto experiments with hitting it using only the fletching of an arrow. Though successful, the ball teleports, requiring Makoto to locate and hit it again to immobilize it. Elated to finally secure one of the balls, he observes the disappearance of another examinee, pondering whether they passed or dropped out. Spotting a yellow ball, Makoto weakens himself using his kai and fires the weakest arrow he can manage. This method successfully stops the yellow ball from moving, and Makoto believes he can make progress with one day remaining. After eating, he notices a new presence in the area. The following morning, Makoto spots a suspicious-looking person among the monsters affected by his barrier. The stranger, an assassin, launches an attack using knives. Makoto successfully blocks the assault, prompting the assassin to employ a spell to conceal himself. Despite the hidden presence, Makoto's kai allows him to sense the assassin's location. Attempting to create distance, Makoto finds himself hindered by the assassin, who grabs his clothes and attempts another knife attack. In response, Makoto breaks the knife with his bare hands, causing the assassin to retreat. Makoto realizes the knife was coated with poison and questions the assassin's motives, asking if he is targeting the examinees. The assassin admits to his intentions, revealing that the others have already departed. Although unenthusiastic about the job, the assassin insists Makoto must pay for breaking his knife. He claims Makoto will succumb to the fast-acting poison coating the weapon in seconds. Surprisingly, nothing happens to Makoto, leading the assassin to suspect he neutralized the poison. Makoto proposes to share his antidote knowledge if the assassin discloses information about the person who hired him. The assassin, however, explains he doesn't know the client, as he accepted the job through the Assassin's Guild. Deciding not to press further, Makoto reveals that he has temporarily paralyzed the assassin from the neck down. Informing the paralyzed assassin of his immunity to poisons, Makoto kicks him away. As the day nears its end, Makoto faces the challenge of capturing a red ball, realizing that using pure physical strength is difficult due to his body constantly emitting mana. However, he recalls that the non-magical knife he acquired for cooking might be the key. Using the knife, he successfully captures a red ball. Returning to the exam hall, Makoto discovers that the others have already arrived. Displaying the balls to the examiner, he astonishes the official by presenting 3 balls of different colors. The examiner expresses disbelief as most individuals usually gather 3 balls of the color susceptible to their best attack. Makoto's unique approach makes him the first to pass the exam in this unconventional manner. In the aftermath, Makoto informs Shiki about being hired as a temporary instructor. While awaiting the next steps in the process, he suggests they visit the Hot Pot restaurant. Shiki eagerly anticipates the visit. The scene shifts to the examiner venting his frustrations in a bar, revealing that the exam was intended to be nearly impossible to pass this time. However, Makoto's unexpected success in gathering 3 balls of different colors surprises both the examiner and a curious girl at the bar. The examiner laments the unintended outcome, while the girl finds the situation intriguing. Makoto's innovative approach to the exam showcases his adaptability and resourcefulness, leading to a surprising and successful outcome. The next scene shows Makoto getting permission to open a new store in Rosvard. We learn that he recently got a notice about being officially hired as a lecturer. Shiki comments on how sudden the notice was, and Makoto tells him they need to register this afternoon. Afterward, they head to the 5 Irons. Luria greets them warmly and thanks them for being regular customers. She asks if they're having hot pot today, and Shiki confirms. Makoto orders a chicken hot pot for himself, surprising Luria as most people usually share one. Makoto explains they've been coming for 5 days, and Shiki loves the hot pot here. Meanwhile, a student named Illingen watches them, curious about their frequent visits. Another student approaches Illingen, saying she needs to talk to him about something. The scene shifts to Luria bringing Makoto's group their hot pots. Makoto notes that Shiki loves the creamy hot pot, which Makoto himself isn't a fan of. Luria then asks Makoto if he's going to teach at the academy. She starts to mention that she knows someone there, but she's called away by another waitress before she can finish. Later, we see Makoto at the academy, where a staff member explains the rules he needs to follow. She tells him that running his business won't be a problem as long as he doesn't handle money in school. Teachers earn wages based on the number of students they have, getting 10 silver coins per student. As a part-time teacher, Makoto can have up to 30 students, and his first lesson is scheduled for next week. Makoto agrees and says he wants to start with just 10 students to focus on quality teaching. The staff member is surprised because most teachers try to take as many students as possible. Makoto explains he wants to prioritize quality over quantity. Then, a full-time lecturer named Blight arrives and talks to Makoto. Blight learns that Makoto wants to teach practical skills, so he promises to send 10 interested students to Makoto's class. Makoto thanks him, and Blight mentions that this year's students are exceptional, with some capable of using levitation spells and telepathy. Makoto recalls the students from earlier, and wonders if they're considered outstanding. Blight mentions hearing about Makoto's strength, and looks forward to seeing him in action. The scene shifts to Makoto in the library, where the librarian asks if she can assist him. Makoto explains he's searching for materials for his class as his assistant applies for a permit. He asks for books on magic spells, but the librarian suggests they might be too basic for him. Makoto is surprised when the librarian knows his name, but she says it's her job to know. Makoto finds it unbelievable since there are many lecturers in the academy. The librarian reveals she heard about him during a dinner with the examiner, and mentions Luria from the Five Irons as her sister. She talks about customers who always order 2 hot pots, which Makoto realizes is likely the person Luria mentioned. The librarian introduces herself as Eva, but Makoto senses something off about her smile, reminiscent of Mio. The scene shifts to Mio in the port town of Kurin, where she's learning how to chop vegetables from a girl named Beretta. Beretta teaches her the basics, demonstrating how to peel a radish using a technique called katsuramuki. Mio is surprised by her skill and wonders if this method has applications beyond cooking. A week passes, and we see students heading to attend Makoto's class. They're curious about their new teacher, but also a bit apprehensive. They're used to Professor Blight's classes, where just showing up was usually enough. Makoto, using his investigative ability, overhears their conversation and feels underestimated by them. Shiki suggests Makoto should appear strict to earn their respect, as being too nice might make them look down on him. Makoto agrees and prepares to meet his students. When they arrive, Shiki and Makoto introduce themselves, but the students seem unimpressed, likening Makoto's appearance to that of a kobold. Makoto informs them that he'll give them a detailed lesson focused on magic and asks a student which elements they can control. The student replies that they're good with wind and knows a bit of earth and fire magic. Makoto asks another student the same question, and she says she can use fire and wind magic. Then, Makoto inquires how many of them can master multiple elements equally well. The students remain quiet, and Makoto decides to follow Tomo's approach. He tells them he now understands their strengths and emphasizes that they'll stay average unless they improve. One of the girls feels he's being too harsh, arguing they were accepted into the academy because they're qualified. Makoto responds that he's just stating facts. Another student adds that in magic, it's common to choose one element to master. Makoto explains that relying on just one element in battle could be dangerous if the enemy figures it out, so it's important to be skilled in multiple elements. The students find this idea simple but question if Makoto can do it himself. Makoto decides to demonstrate by having a mock battle with Shiki. As they prepare, the students notice Makoto doesn't emit any magic energy, while Shiki's staff radiates immense power. Shiki swiftly attacks Makoto with his staff, but Makoto defends himself using a barrier. Through telepathy, Makoto communicates with Shiki, acknowledging his progress, credited to training from Mio and Tomo. Makoto then counterattacks with a fire spell. Shiki defends himself with a barrier, and then tries to attack Makoto with an earth spell, but Makoto avoids it and destroys the spell with a fire arrow. The students are amazed by their skills. Makoto combines fire and water to attack Shiki, but Shiki blocks it, crediting his special staff made by elder dwarves. Makoto suggests ending the battle soon, and they both prepare for their final moves. The students are surprised as it's the first time they've seen Makoto and Shiki chant spells. They anticipate the power of their spells, noticing Makoto's ability to speak. The spells collide, and when the dust settles, Shiki is defeated. Makoto worries that the students might quit his class after witnessing their strength. He ends the session, leaving the decision to the students. Meanwhile, Shiki tends to a girl injured during the battle, using some effective ointment. The girl is amazed by its quick healing, assuming it must be expensive. While some girls consider quitting, The boys are excited and fearful, thinking they could become stronger under Makoto's guidance. Shiki reassures the girl that they have plenty of the ointment in their shop, calming her worries. Impressed by his appearance, the girl is captivated by him. Shiki then departs, leaving Makoto to ponder if anyone will remain for his next class. Shiki predicts that at least half of the students will stay. Makoto reflects on his own expression, realizing he shouldn't mimic Tomo too closely. Meanwhile, Tomo is near the Star Lake, conversing with a wounded soldier who witnessed the war between demons and humans. She learns that the lake formed during that battle is now known as Star Lake. Delving into the man's memories, Tomo discovers that the lake was created by one of Makoto's attacks. She finds amusement in Makoto's actions, marveling at how he never fails to surprise her. The scene shifts to Makoto's next class, where he notices that out of the initial 10 students, only 5 remain. One student, Jean Rowan, introduces himself as aspiring to become a swordsman, and Makoto notes his high performance in practical tests. Another student, Izumo Kiweisuke, introduces himself as aspiring to become a mage. Makoto infers from his Japanese-sounding name that he is likely from the Laurel Commonwealth. Abelia Hopleys introduces herself next, prompting Makoto to recall another Hopleys student from the school, known to be the child of a prominent aristocrat in Limia. Dina Severus introduces himself as a married individual, sharing that his wife is currently on maternity leave due to imminent childbirth. The last student, Mitra Kaspar, mentions being born and raised in Rosgard, with both parents serving as clerics. Izumo then questions Makoto about his use of magic for communication, noting that Makoto had chanted a spell the day before. Makoto explains that he can't speak the common language for a particular reason, then begins the class. He inquires about the effects of mana depletion on the body. The students respond, noting that when half of the mana is used up, both mental and physical exhaustion occur. At 20%, the body becomes immobile. Complete depletion results in vomiting, confusion, and loss of consciousness, and if it goes beyond the limit, it could be fatal. Dina recalls learning this in elementary school. Makoto emphasizes the importance of understanding their limits through actual combat, assuring them of the availability of medicines to replenish mana and stamina. The scene shifts to the students exhausted after sparring with Makoto, with only Jean and Mitra remaining standing. Mitra uses his healing magic to support Jean, who attempts to attack Makoto but is swiftly defeated. After everyone is down, Makoto distributes stamina and magic potions, emphasizing the necessity of experiencing one's limits first. He instructs them to reflect on their actions and submit a report. The scene changes to Ilungan winning a mock battle. He recalls receiving pills from a girl at the academy, explaining they enhance physical and magical ability, part of the academy's ongoing development. The scene shifts to Ilungan walking down the academy hallway with the pills. He spots Makoto and wonders why he's there, pondering if Makoto is a lecturer. Then, the scene changes to Makoto reviewing the students' reports. He reflects on their potential, noting Jean's impressive stamina and leadership qualities. Shiki acknowledges Makoto's keen observations, and Makoto admits he's still adjusting to teaching but is committed to doing his best. Meanwhile, Blight is frustrated that the Assassin Guild failed to eliminate Makoto. The assassin explains Makoto's exceptional strength, even breaking his knife made from a great dragon's scale. Blight dismisses the excuses and urges the assassin to finish off Makoto quickly. It's been 2 weeks since Makoto became a lecturer, and a new store outside of Seagate has opened. We see Makoto has brought the Ogre sisters, Eris and Aqua, to work at the store. He shows them the merchandise and explains that the store will be open until midnight to help build its reputation. The sisters are frightened at the thought of working until that late, but Makoto reassures them. He explains they'll work in shifts, take breaks, receive a food allowance, and have a supportive manager like Shiki. Makoto mentions that since it's a new store, it shouldn't be too busy, making it easier to manage than the one in Seijei. The sisters find this reassuring, but Makoto is unsure if they can handle the store alone. Later, the scene shifts to Makoto in the academy's library, looking exhausted. He reflects on his successful classes and business ventures, but he's troubled by girls asking to marry him for his money, wanting to be his third wife to avoid responsibilities. Makoto questions if what these girls propose can even be called marriage as he gazes at a drawing of his parents. Eva inquires about the people in the drawing, and Makoto describes them as kind individuals who looked after him, feeling a strong connection to them. Reflecting on his past, he finds it odd how people here perceive marriage. Eva elaborates that many students come from families where marriages are strategic alliances. Makoto finds it surprising that these young people are already considering marriage. Eva compliments Makoto's innocence. Makoto compares his current situation with the genuine friendships he had with Tomo and Mio, feeling they were better than these materialistic relationships. The scene shifts to Tomo near the Star Lake, where Lime informs her about a past battle between someone and Waterfall Lake near Stellar Fort, likely Sophia. He wonders if Tomo found any clues about the ring sealing the goddess's power. Tomo admits she didn't find anything about the ring but did discover who created the Star Lake. Lime remarks that it's evident since their young master is the only one with such capability. Tomo then notices they are being followed, and someone is outside their camp. Curious, Tomo inquires about the intruder's identity, and they claim to be a group of travelers seeking rare and quality weapons. Tomo welcomes them inside, revealing the travelers as Tomoki, Lily, and Mara. Introducing herself, Tomo explains their role as guards for the Kuzunoha company at the border. Tomoki admires Tomo's impressive weapon collection and her strength, prompting him to ask her age. Tomo tactfully suggests it's impolite to inquire about a lady's age before introducing oneself. The travelers then introduce themselves, leading Lime to deduce they are the hero and second princess of Gratini. Tomo questions their purpose in visiting, considering their knightly and aristocratic demeanor from another kingdom. Lily reveals they're here to investigate the sudden appearance of a lake. Tomoki requests to examine Tomo's katana, but when he tries to draw it, he finds it impossible. Tomo explains that a spell restricts anyone else from unsheathing it except her. Tomoki insists it's impossible, claiming he can wield any weapon in the world, but Tomo warns him not to handle it roughly. Taking back the katana, Tomo displays its appearance to Tomoki, who shows interest. Surprised by its quality, Tomoki and his companions admire it. However, Tomo indicates they're busy and should depart. Lily expresses interest in buying the katana, but Tomo reiterates that only she can use it. Lily then reveals their true purpose, asking for Tomo's assistance for the world's sake. Tomo suspects they have ulterior motives, perhaps aiming to replicate the weapon for their own agenda. Firmly, she refuses to sell her katana, signaling the end of their discussion. Tomoki then uses his special eye power on Lime, trying to persuade Tomo to let him have her katana. However, Tomo firmly tells him to be quiet, noticing Lime's unusual behavior. Tomoki then attempts to use his power on Tomo herself, asking her to join their mission to save the world, but his eye has no effect on her. Tomo, annoyed, tells him to stop giving her that creepy stare, and she questions if Tomoki is a pervert for persistently bothering her. Disappointed with Tomoki's behavior, she rejects his offer, stating her unwavering loyalty to her master. Surprised that his power didn't work on her, Mora asks if Tomo is a dragon. Tomo clarifies that she is not an ordinary dragon, possessing immense strength and presence. Lily speculates if she might be the formidable Waterfall Lake, known as the strongest dragon in the region. Tomo clarifies that she is not Leica, surprising Lily, who can't believe Tomo read her mind. Mora attempts to use her dragon summoner powers to control Tomo, but it fails. Tomo counters with her own aura, dispelling Mora's powers. This also breaks the effect of Tomoki's magic eye on Lime, leaving Tomoki puzzled as to why he wanted to give his katana to someone like Lime. Angered by Tomo's rejection, Tomoki attacks Lime. Tomo dismisses Tomoki's behavior as childish and calls him a hopeless scoundrel. She then vanishes into mist, suggesting they forget the encounter ever happened. She warns against any foolish plans, hinting that the hero from the Empire will meet his demise if they continue. With that, Tomo disappears with the mist. Tomoki admires Tomo's unique character and desires to make her his own. Meanwhile, Tomo and Lime reflect on the absurdity of Lime almost giving away his treasured katana to Tomoki. Tomo then offers Lime the opportunity to become her servant, and Lime agrees without hesitation. He expresses his happiness at the chance to grow stronger at his own pace. He fears regretting his lack of strength when it's most needed, so he eagerly begins his training with Tomo. Meanwhile, Mio is gathering seaweed and finds it surprisingly delicious and safe to eat. Suddenly, Hibiki's wolf attacks her, causing Mio to fall into the sea and soak her kimono. Angered, Mio tries to retaliate against the wolf, but Hibiki intervenes, apologizing for her pet's actions and ensuring Mio's safety. Mio observes Hibiki's concern for her well-being over her own life. Hibiki promises to discipline her pet, returning it to its place at her obai. Mio ponders whether Hibiki might be a spirit. Hibiki explains that the creature was a guardian beast of sorts, which reminds Mio of Makoto due to her peculiar smile. Concerned, Hibiki asks if Mio is alright, to which Mio reassures her, mentioning that the wolf only left some marks on her kimono. Wanting to make amends, Hibiki asks if there's anything she can do to help. Mio suggests that Hibiki assist her in selecting the best pieces of seaweed from the pile. Mio notices Hibiki's knowledge of differentiating between seaweed and kelp, and Hibiki mentions they can make excellent miso soup with them. Excited at the prospect of cooking together, Mio looks forward to preparing the dish. 2 days later, Mio travels with the hero's party and learns they're headed to Sige to acquire weapons. During the journey, Mio and Hibiki discuss cooking. Woody observes that while Hibiki may seem tough on the outside, she carries deep emotional scars. Despite hiding her identity during her travels in hopes of healing, Woody doubts it will be easy for her to find peace. Mio asks Hibiki's party if they're strong, and Hibiki mentions she's a decent fighter. Feeling confident in their abilities, Mio decides to let them handle the rare creature approaching them. Suddenly, a giant mantis-like monster appears. Hibiki's party attempts to fight it, but Mio observes that they lack proper equipment despite their skill. Norst wonders why they encountered the monster before resupplying in Sige, and feels he must support Hibiki in Navel's absence. He confronts the mantis but gets injured in the process, leading Hibiki to recall Navel's death, which frightens her. Seeking Mio's aid, she asks for help. Mio swiftly defeats the mantis, surprising everyone. Concerned for Norst, Mio checks on him. Though injured, his wounds aren't life-threatening. However, the mantis, still alive, launches a surprise attack on Mio, ruining her kimono. Enraged, Mio destroys the monsters. Witnessing Mio's power, Hibiki's party is amazed. Mio hopes her kimono can be repaired. As she releases a powerful attack, the miasma knocks out Hibiki and her party. The wolf emerges to protect Hibiki. Feeling a sense of familiarity, Mio reassures the wolf that she means no harm. The wolf calms down, sensing Mio's changed intentions. The scene shifts to Hibiki recalling memories of Navel, and she awakens in an inn. Finding a note from Mio, she learns that Mio brought them to Sige and advises them to visit the Kuzunoha Trading Company. Later, Hibiki and her group arrive at the Kuzunoha Trading Company, where they meet Mio. Hibiki asks about her kimono, and Mio assures her it will be fixed. Hibiki wonders if Mio brought them there to scold her for facing the monster alone, but Mio clarifies that she invited them to cook together. Mio suggests Hibiki can repay her by spending time cooking with her, surprising Hibiki with the simple request. Woody informs Mio they came to Seagate for new equipment and training but are short on time. Mio points out that if they struggled against the monster, heading to the wastelands would be futile. Despite this, Hibiki insists on getting stronger. Baron suggests that he'll craft the gear they need for the wastelands, with payment to follow later. He plans to spend the next 3 days making the equipment while they train, and during that time, he wants them to teach Mio how to cook. Mio expresses concern that new gear won't ensure their survival, emphasizing that if they perish, she won't be able to learn to cook the soup, which surprises Hibiki. Baron proposes that Toa and her group accompany them for added support, which Mio finds agreeable. Hibiki appreciates the offer. The scene shifts to Mio cooking a few days later, showing improvement in peeling vegetables and assessing ingredients, though her sense of taste remains lacking. Hibiki notes that Mio can handle unappetizing food but is sensitive to tasty dishes. She suggests that if Mio can discern between them, there's hope for improvement, and they should focus on mastering this skill. The scene changes to Makoto and Shiki enjoying a hot pot meal together. Shiki brings up that Tomo has requested their return to the demiplane, as she has important news to share with Makoto. Makoto reflects on how they've mainly been communicating through telepathy lately. Shiki suggests they go back since the forest ogres can manage the shop in their absence. Although Makoto feels a bit concerned, he decides to trust Shiki's judgment and agrees to return to the demiplane. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps. Makoto notices that the demiplane feels unusually hot, and Shiki informs him that the weather patterns have become more erratic. Confused by the changes, Makoto realizes that his once cozy demiplane now feels different. However, he finds solace in the completion of his house. Inside, Makoto is warmly greeted by the residents, including Mio and Tomo. He expresses his gratitude for their hard work and raises a toast to them. They all share a meal together, and Emma tells Makoto how much they missed him, encouraging him to visit more often. Mio serves Makoto some soup, which he enjoys, bringing tears of joy to Neo's eyes. Tomo reveals that Neo had been on a journey to improve her cooking skills and prepared all the food for the party. Makoto praises Neo's efforts, and Mio expresses her newfound appreciation for cooking, promising to make even better dishes next time before leaving for Seije. Emma explains that she's learning to cook from an adventurer in Seije, while Tomo informs Makoto that they have a meeting scheduled later and advises him to rest until then. The scene transitions to Makoto having a meeting with Tomo and Mio, during which Tomo reveals her investigation into the area where Makoto fought the Dragon Slayer. She mentions encountering the hero's party, led by a young man named Tomoki Iwahashi, who appeared to be around Makoto's age. Makoto asks Tomo what she thinks of him, and she admits she had a bad impression. She saw him as a dishonest person who was overly focused on his power and desires. Tomo believes that after defeating the demons, Makoto might start a war with humans. She also mentions reading the princess's thoughts and learning about a weapon called a gun. Shiki believes the hero might have informed the princess about it. Makoto doesn't see guns as powerful as magic but acknowledges their potential for assassination and genocide. Tomo finds both magic and guns repulsive. She even considered killing the hero and princess without informing Makoto. Makoto advises against such drastic actions. Tomo admits she didn't gather useful information about the goddess's power or the dragon slayer. Makoto wonders if she discovered anything about him, but Tomo found nothing unusual. All she knows is that someone shot an arrow during the battle, creating a lake. Makoto wonders if the unusual weather was caused by the goddess, but Tomo explains that survivors referred to the culprit as a devil. However, Makoto doesn't realize they're talking about him. He suggests they share information now, and Tomo mentions she already has an idea about the academy from Shiki. She heard Makoto is popular among girls and asks for details. Makoto thinks Shiki has already informed her but notes the unbearable heat. They step outside, and Makoto wonders about the irregular weather. He learns he's the reason behind it due to the misty door he set up outside. Makoto admits he sets up doors wherever he goes. Tomo explains the weather inside reflects the door's last location. Makoto finds the academy's weather pleasant, but Shiki suggests it's not solely due to the door's location but also influenced by the terrain. Tomo vows to continue investigating, leaving Makoto worried about traveling. The scene shifts to Mio discovering that Hibiki's party must return to Limia. Mio is saddened as she won't learn new dishes. Hibiki apologizes and mentions she has something important to attend to. Mio accepts the situation, understanding the harsh conditions of the wastelands as mentioned by Hibiki. She acknowledges they wouldn't have survived without her help in Baron's sword, expressing her gladness in assisting. Hibiki then invites Mio to join her, but Mio declines, preferring to stay with her young master. Despite Hibiki's attempts to persuade her, Mio remains steadfast, stating her loyalty lies solely with her young master. She wishes Hibiki a safe journey and suggests visiting Limia if she ever gets the chance, promising to teach her new recipes. Delighted by the offer, Mio and Hibiki part ways. The scene shifts to Makoto inspecting the fields in the demi-plane. Emma informs him that their harvest has improved significantly due to Shiki's farming instruction. They now harvest produce every 2 weeks, thanks to their enhanced farmland. Makoto is impressed with the results of Shiki's technique and acknowledges its effectiveness. Shiki attributes the success to the knowledge he gained from Makoto. Makoto feels relieved that they no longer need to worry about food shortages and decides to focus on increasing the population of the demi-planes as planned. Emma informs Makoto that they have already started the selection process for new inhabitants, with recommendations from Tomo, Mio, and Shiki. Makoto expresses his intention to interview the candidates. Additionally, Eld presents Makoto with a claw, explaining that Mio brought it after her kimono was damaged recently. Makoto is surprised to hear about the damage but relieved that Mio wasn't harmed. Eld explains that the material of the kimono was the issue and speculates that it may have come from a powerful monster. Makoto wonders if someone intentionally created such a monster. Eld reveals that he investigated and found evidence suggesting that a weak monster had consumed a wind spirit, which seemed unlikely. Shiki confesses that he created the monster as part of experiments conducted before meeting Makoto. He had captured and weakened several mid-level spirits, feeding them to monsters in hopes of producing favorable results, but ultimately abandoned the experiments. He apologizes to Makoto for his actions. Makoto questions if this was the only monster Shiki created, to which Shiki admits he made several. Eld suggests reporting the incident to Tomo and Neo for further action. Makoto suggests they should give Shiki a stern talking to for his mistake. Later, Makoto heads out to interview different species. Emma informs him that Tomo chose an unusual species. Mio relied on instincts, and Shiki selected based on abilities. Makoto feels uneasy about the situation. Emma mentions that representatives from each race have been invited, as they hope to relocate. She advises Makoto to act as the master of the place, and not to use honorifics while referring to her. The first group, recommended by Shiki, consists of Winkin. Makoto welcomes them and they express gratitude for considering them as new residents. Makoto introduces himself, and the Winkin leader, Keiken, introduces his advisor, Shona. Emma wonders how long they plan to stay and they immediately descend. Makoto notices their large population, impressive given their remote living conditions. The Winkin inquire if they will be treated equally among current residents and given suitable jobs. Makoto confirms it's true, and the Winkin express relief that they won't need to fight for resources anymore. After passing the interview, Makoto meets the Gorgons recommended by Tomo. He requests them to remove their masks, but they hesitate due to their petrifying eyes. Makoto reassures them that he and Emma are protected. The Gorgons note they sense no magic from Makoto. Emma defends Makoto, and they comply, turning a table to stone. Makoto acknowledges the inconvenience caused by their eyes, which even affects their food. He observes they are all females, with no males. The Gorgons explain they reproduce by absorbing energy from males of other species. Makoto informs them they can't provide mates, and they'll have to find them on their own. The Gorgons agree but express concern about how other residents will handle their eyes. Makoto assures them not to worry, as he plans to make glasses that have the same effect as their masks. The Gorgons are thrilled but express concern about not being able to reverse petrification. Makoto demonstrates his ability to undo petrification and grants petrification resistance to objects. He assures them he can do this whenever needed, and the Gorgons are relieved they won't need their masks anymore. They request to stay, and Makoto agrees as long as they behave. He passes them as residents. Next, they meet the Al-Elmera, recommended by Neo. Makoto mistakenly calls them fairies, but they correct him and boast about being superior to bugs like lichens. Emma dislikes their attitude, but Makoto suggests using them for gathering information. Emma reiterates her opposition, warning of the potential disaster of allowing the Al-Elmera into the demiplane. She urges Makoto to take the interview seriously, emphasizing its importance for the demiplane's future. She suggests that if the Al-Elmera are as powerful as they claim, they should handle the Lick Pack themselves. The Al-Elmera insult Emma, calling her a pig, which angers her. Makoto rejects the Al-Elmera, and Tomo and Shiki inform him that two species have passed the interview. Shiki plans to create prototype glasses and contact lenses for the Gorgons, while Tomo will oversee the Winkin and develop a training program for them. Neo arrives with vegetable sticks and mayonnaise, surprising Makoto. He enjoys the mayonnaise, as does Shiki, who considers adding it to Hot Pot. Tomo samples it but prefers the miso she's working on. Neo asks when the miso will be ready, and Tomo says it's almost done. Meanwhile, at the Five Irons, Makoto's students discuss two returning students who have recovered from illness. Despite their good grades, they're known for their bad attitudes, which have caused trouble for both students and teachers. The students doubt Makoto is aware of them and speculate that they won't bother him, as they only target attractive individuals. They're referring to Rembrandt's daughters. The scene shifts to Makoto noticing rain falling in the demiplane. Tomo explains that her theory about the misty door Makoto used last time affecting the demiplane's weather is mostly correct. Mio expresses difficulty in storing food due to the unpredictable weather, while Shiki mentions that so far, the people haven't been greatly affected, but sudden thunderstorms or scorching hot sun could pose problems. Makoto feels that some level of regularity is necessary. Tomo, after collecting data from Makoto's mana, has noticed a link between the misty door and the weather, which is mostly predictable. She plans to find spots where the four seasons can change effortlessly. Makoto says he'll rely on her as he needs to return to Rostgard. Mio wonders if Makoto truly has to leave, sensing reluctance from the demiplane's resident. Makoto explains that he must go but promises to return as often as possible. The scene shifts to Eris giving Makoto money from his store, indicating their business is doing well. They plan to hire more shopkeepers. As a reward, Makoto gives Aqua and Eris some bananas, which makes them happy. Later, at the academy, Makoto mentions needing special permission for today's lesson. Shiki assures him he has the permit already. Makoto encounters Blight, who wants to buy 10 jars of external wound ointment from Makoto's store. Blight explains that between summer break and the school's anniversary, some students come to class with wounds. Makoto agrees to fulfill the order and encourages Blight to check out other items in the store. After Blight leaves, Makoto hopes their reputation in the academy isn't being exploited for profit. He notices many love letters on their desks, and Shiki offers to handle them, prioritizing important documents first. Makoto is surprised to find 3 new students have applied for his class. The scene shifts to the new students introducing themselves to the class. The first, Sif Rembrandt, explains she was sick but has recovered. She specializes in earth and fire magic, with protection from earth spirits. The second, Yuno Rembrandt, is Sif's younger sister, skilled in physical combat, preferring the center of the guard. Makoto is pleased they've recovered. The last, Karen Furs, a transfer student from Fusk Royal Academy, has an affinity for water. Shiki and Makoto are wary of her. Makoto tells the Rembrandt sisters he won't show favoritism because of their father's friendship. The boys suspect the sisters are pretending, noting their prior rude behavior. Shiki informs Makoto telepathically that the sisters had a bad reputation for their arrogance and wealth. Despite this, Makoto can't discern it from their appearance. He announces an interesting activity for the day's lesson and leads the older students away. They'll face a summoned opponent. The students worry about surviving without showing weakness to the new students. Makoto summons Liddy using his Mistgate, secretly instructing him to use only 20% of his strength and refrain from using his breath attack. He assures the students they'll survive if they fight hard. Turning to the new students, he explains they'll be fighting him, with only them attacking. During the fight, Makoto will point out areas for improvement. If they don't improve, he'll start deflecting their attacks. Yuno shoots arrows at Makoto, but he blocks them, deeming them weak. He advises her to infuse mana into her arrows and increase her physical strength. Sif attacks with magic while Karen freezes him. Makoto praises their efforts, noting Karen's timing and Sif's strategy. He advises Sif to control the intensity of battle and increase her speed, and Karen to focus on her output strength and effect duration. When Yuno shoots again, Makoto burns away her arrow, criticizing her eagerness for powerful shots. He resolves to defeat them in a memorable way, emphasizing the importance of experiencing failure early on. Meanwhile, other students fight Liddy but are overpowered. By the end, all students are defeated. Makoto announces the end of the lesson and instructs the students to write a report on why they failed. He then asks Karen to join him for a discussion and leaves. The students feel defeated, thinking Makoto's standards are too high. Shiki reassures them that Makoto sets achievable goals and is strict because he believes in their potential. He admits he envies their opportunity for growth. Shiki asks the Rembrandt sisters if they want to continue the class, and they express determination to improve alongside their peers. Abelia suggests discussing the lesson, and the Rembrandt sisters agree. The scene shifts to Makoto speaking with Karen, acknowledging her remarkable strength for a student. Karen explains she served as a mage in the army, offering to share details of her past unit to prove her authenticity. Makoto admits he's already investigated her background but doubts her identity. Karen insists she's genuine and asks if Makoto wants to know her better. Makoto questions Karen about a demon's presence in the academy. Despite Karen's attempt to play dumb, Makoto points out her telltale skin and eye color. Karen resorts to using her magic eye to charm Makoto, but he sees through her attempt. Karen admits surprise at her cover being blown so quickly and threatens Makoto for calling her hornless. Makoto speculates about the real Karen's fate, but Karen claims innocence, blaming her transformation on a friend. She questions Makoto's lack of hostility, noting that humans typically react differently to demons. Makoto expresses his stance against discrimination and willingness to understand others regardless of their race. Karen is astonished by Makoto's ability to speak demon language. Makoto reveals his multilingual skills, but insists on knowing Karen's name. Karen refuses, feeling the need to eliminate Makoto now that her identity is exposed. Shiki identifies Karen as Rona, one of the demon army's 4 generals, and recalls encountering her when he was a lick. Makoto emphasizes the importance of information in his merchant profession, asserting his advantage. Rona acknowledges the precariousness of her situation and suggests continuing the conversation elsewhere. The scene shifts to the 5 Irons, where Rona expresses interest in learning more about the Kuzunoa Trading Company. She notes the company's presence in Sige and inquires about their intelligence agency there. Makoto clarifies that the company is neither aligned with the human nor demon factions, surprising Rona. He explains that some humans have joined their cause, and it's not unusual for the company to remain neutral. Rona questions if Makoto is becoming an arms dealer, but he clarifies that he simply wants to protect his business interests. While she still harbors distrust, Rona acknowledges Makoto's motives and suggests getting to know each other better. Shiki warns Rona against physical contact with Makoto, but she dismisses it as a shame. Makoto probes Rona about her infiltration of the academy, and she reveals her mission to investigate and address secret human experiments in the city. The scene then shifts to Makoto briefing Lime in his shop about recent demi-human abductions and human trafficking involving the Assassin Guild. Lime pledges to gather information on the matter. Makoto asks Aqua and Eris to assist Lime with his investigation. Initially hesitant to work overtime, they agree when Makoto promises to reward them with bananas. Afterwards, Shiki warns Makoto not to blindly trust Rona's words. Makoto acknowledges this and questions Shiki about his past relationship with her. Shiki explains that they were once partners who exchanged information, but Rona betrayed him and caused trouble. She owes allegiance to the Demon King and is not as powerful as Mio, but Shiki compares her to a less trustworthy version of Mio. Concerned, Makoto asks Shiki to keep an eye on Rona. Later, Makoto visits the Rembrandt sisters and apologizes for not visiting them during their recovery. They remark that Makoto appears kinder outside of class. Makoto requests them to keep his visit confidential and thanks them for their gratitude. He advises them to live happily and fulfillingly. Recalling their father's intention to document their recovery journey, Makoto expresses interest in seeing it. The sisters mention their efforts in disciplining Morris for suggesting the idea, reflecting on his foolishness. Makoto understands how rumors might have stemmed from this incident and leaves the girls' dorms. Shiki remarks that the Rembrandt sisters are not as terrible as rumored and speculates that the curse might have positively influenced them. Makoto hopes for their growth and a bright future. Meanwhile, Lime investigates the human experiments and discovers new clothing in an abandoned building within the academy compound. Sensing someone's presence, he warns them to halt or face consequences. We then see Aqua and Eris inform Makoto that they were supposed to meet Lime at daybreak, but they can't reach him through telepathy. They explain that Lime's last communication was from the development site of the school compound, and it's unusual for him to engage in combat without direct orders. Makoto believes that even if Lime was ambushed, he wouldn't be easily defeated. Shiki speculates whether Rona might have deceived them, considering her deceitful nature. Makoto cautions against jumping to conclusions prematurely and suggests investigating the crime scene first. Meanwhile, Lime finds himself imprisoned alongside Eva. His katana is missing, and he expresses regret for involving Eva in the situation. Lime recalls the encounter with a powerful white-haired boy who blocked his telepathic communication attempts with Makoto. Despite Lime's attack, the boy easily repelled him and fled after sensing someone approaching. Eva, who had been nearby, attempted to rescue Lime but was also captured by the subsequent arrival. She expresses surprise at the organization's swift abandonment of her. Lime recognizes Eva as the academy librarian and informs her that he works for Makoto's company, suggesting that she might know Makoto. Eva expresses her observation that Lime appears more like a bodyguard, to which Lime responds that the roles are essentially the same. He then proposes an escape plan to Eva, who acknowledges the strength of the organization to have established a base in the area. She suspects they have allies within the academy, and believes her escape alone won't make a significant difference. Expressing doubt about Lime's ability to defeat the powerful boy they encountered earlier, Eva suggests Lime focus on addressing the individuals entrenched within the academy if he intends to rescue her. Lime, curious about his motivation, learns that Eva can provide valuable information to his master, Makoto. She also promises substantial rewards if they dismantle the organization. Agreeing to Eva's proposal, Lime breaks free from captivity using a magical blade from his bracelet. As they attempt to escape, they come across a room filled with experiments involving humans and demihumans. Shocked by the disturbing sight, Eva speculates that the experiments aim to enhance combat and magical abilities. Unable to contact Makoto telepathically, Lime decides to prioritize freeing the test subjects from their suffering before taking further action. In another place, Shiki and Makoto search for Lime. Shiki detects a dragon nearby, suggesting they may not be facing demons. Makoto considers the possibility that Mitsurugi and Sophia, who claimed alliance with demons, could be involved. Shiki sees this as a chance to avenge Makoto's past injuries, growing eager. However, Lime suddenly appears, surprising them. Lime apologizes for causing worry, and Makoto asks if he encountered any dragons. Lime says no, and Makoto notices Eva with him. Lime promises to give a full report later. Shiki, annoyed by Lime's quick return, is calmed by Makoto. Later, Makoto reads Lime's report, curious about the man who defeated him. Shiki informs Makoto that Eva wants to talk. Makoto asks Shiki to seek Rona's help in uncovering the organization's collaborators in the academy. Shiki agrees, and Makoto speaks with Eva. Eva begins by mentioning the promised information. She reveals familiarity with the individuals in Makoto's portrait. The man, a noble with a significant position in a certain nation, and the woman, a high-ranking priestess. Learning this surprises Makoto, who discovers more about his parents' backgrounds. Eva explains that they were supposed to marry in Kaelia, a region of the now-destroyed kingdom of Elysia. However, they were exiled without marrying and disappeared. She admits lacking all the details, as most records were destroyed during an invasion of Kaelinia. Makoto understands that Eva is referring to the invasion a decade ago, which resulted in a big win for the demons. Curious, he asks how she knows about his parents. Eva explains she's from Kalp and was there during the invasion. Only she and Luria managed to escape. However, they were labeled as cowards for leaving their nation behind. Since then, they've lived quietly, not even using their family names. People still treat them coldly and even harass them sometimes. Despite considering suicide, they decided to reclaim Kael'ni, or at least the lost lands of the Insland family. This led Eva to make a deal with an organization opposing the goddess. They exchanged technology and knowledge, making them powerful. She thought they could help reclaim Kael'ni, but she encountered Line, and they got captured. Understanding her plight, Makoto promises to protect her. Later that night, Makoto ponders the potential involvement of the powerful organization in the ongoing war against the demons. Sensing someone approaching, Lime alerts him that the white-haired boy is heading their way. Tamo and Mio arrive, surprising Makoto, who questions their presence. Mio instructs Lime to leave, but Tomo insists Lime would only hinder them. Lime departs to the demiplane, and the boy arrives in their room. He identifies himself as the guildmaster of the Adventurers Guild and apologizes for his actions against Lime. Makoto and the others are taken aback by this revelation. Before explaining his purpose, the guildmaster requests some fruit from Neo. Initially hesitant, Mio complies upon Makoto's insistence. Makoto queries the guildmaster's reason for being there, prompting the guildmaster to assure him that there's no need for written communication, as he's not human. Makoto pretends not to understand, but the guildmaster speculates whether Makoto is worried about being discovered by the goddess. He reassures Makoto that the goddess is unaware of his current situation and has been making errors lately. Makoto decides to speak up and asks the boy who he is. The boy begins to introduce himself, but Tomo interrupts, revealing that he is Ludo, also known as Banshoku, a greater dragon undefeated in battles. Makoto acknowledges that greater dragons are the most powerful among their kind, listing some famous ones. Ludo insists Shin shouldn't interfere when he's talking to Makoto, but Tomo corrects him, stating she no longer goes by that name and introduces herself. Ludo assures Makoto he's not deceiving him and tries to get closer, but Tomo warns him off with her sword and questions when he became a man. Ludo explains it happened 300 years ago when he grew tired of being a woman. He recounts a transformative experience after a one-night encounter with a man, claiming he can charm Makoto even though he's a virgin. Makoto, feeling uncomfortable, creates some distance. Mio arrives with the fruit and inquires about the situation. Ludo explains that his actions are aimed at maintaining balance in the world. He criticizes the humans for becoming too numerous and arrogant under the goddess's rule. According to him, the guild system helps control this by encouraging people to strive for higher levels and ranks. He's intentionally made the growth rate tied to these levels to motivate individuals. Joining the guild ignites people's ambitions, leading them to desire success until they are overwhelmed by their own desires, which ultimately reduces the human population. Tomo finds this method indirect for preserving balance. Ludo reveals that the highest level in the guild is 65,535, a number reminiscent of old video games. Makoto questions how Ludo, a 1,000-year-old human, knows about video games, but Ludo explains the time difference between their worlds. Despite his complex explanation, Makoto remains confused. He inquires about his chances of returning home, and Ludo admits it's nearly impossible due to the randomness of teleportation at his current mono level, estimating a 1 in 10 million chance of success. Makoto recalls Shiki mentioning a similar probability. Ludo advises Makoto to explore this world for now and takes his leave. Tomo escorts him out to prevent further trouble and asks on their way if humans from Makoto's world truly die at 100 years of age. The scene changes to Lime telling Makoto about his investigation plans, but Rona disrupted it with threats, seduction, and lies. Shiki adds that Rona didn't even try to keep the investigation secret. Makoto senses Shiki's disapproval of Rona's behavior and hopes they can reconcile. However, Shiki firmly states he can't trust Rona because she's deceitful and untrustworthy. Despite this, Makoto acknowledges that Rona quickly identified people linked to them and that even the forest ogres dislike her revealing attire. He finds the investigation's outcome surprising and starts to doubt all humans. Planning to discuss future plans with Rona, Makoto meets her at 5 Irons. Rona informs Makoto she's achieved her goal and will leave the city, asking if he'll manage the organization. She apologizes for Karen's absence from his class, arranging for the academy to be notified of her death during summer break. Makoto suggests not revealing Karen's death, but citing family circumstances instead to avoid shocking others. Agreeing, Rona suggests improving the ethics and methods of Makoto's undercover agents to be more effective in espionage. Makoto thanks her, and Karen praises him for treating all beings equally. Despite Karen offering him an audience with the Demon King, Makoto declines. Rona advises him to cut ties with the forest ogres and Shiki, warning they may betray him one day due to their brutish nature. Makoto acknowledges the risk but believes he can prevent it as long as he keeps providing bananas to the ogres. Rona tells Makoto that Shiki isn't fully human or demon but possessed. Makoto disagrees, saying Shaki's appearance is natural. Rona reveals Shiki was known as larva among demons, with mixed interactions. She warns Makoto not to trust Shiki, larva, and Makoto agrees. Rona advises Makoto to be careful and gives him a paper to contact her telepathically for demon cooperation. Then she disappears. Makoto shares it with Tomo, who thinks it might help with a cursed item issue. Tomo suspects Rona's motives of seeking Makoto's favor. Makoto decides to stay alert and recalls Lime's normal conversations. He asks if Lime is still human, shocked to learn Tomo gave Lime her blood. Tomo ponders her actions, and Makoto vows to be stricter. He feels urgency in dealing with the organization for Eva and Luria's safety, but Tomo and Mio offer to help. Makoto insists on handling it alone. Later, he interrogates Blight, who apologizes for his subordinate's deeds. Blight admits he underestimated Makoto's abilities. Makoto modestly credits his exceptional followers. Blight implies Makoto must be aware of the organization. Makoto confirms he is. Blight warns of consequences if Makoto acts against him, citing his worldwide allies. Makoto counters that he's already been abandoned by them, with no rescue or word from the Assassination Guild. Blight is surprised Makoto knows about the guild. Makoto questions why Blight didn't just fulfill his role as a teacher. Makoto argues Blight, being human, has no reason to defy the goddess. Blight counters that the goddess is the only deity in their world, often capricious in her treatment of humans, sparking numerous wars. He believes the goddess is unfit to rule and that humans can thrive without her. Blight criticizes those who overlook her faults due to her divine status. Makoto questions why Blight involved demihumans in his experiments if he feels this way. Blight argues that humans sacrifice themselves, so it's natural for demihumans to do the same. Makoto, fed up, kills Blight. The scene shifts to the academy, where students plan their summer break. The Rembrandt sisters arrive, and everyone makes way for them. Illumbin's friends notice the sisters, hearing rumors of their improved behavior. However, another student claims they've been causing trouble, including Professor Blight's resignation. Illumbin feels uneasy but brushes it off, deciding to take more medicine. Elsewhere, Makoto's students discuss Karen's departure due to family issues. Abelia suggests Sif and Yuno join their next practice with Liddy, a formidable opponent. They strategize to overcome Liddy's defenses, eventually devising a plan. In Makoto's final class before summer, he introduces another lizard man named Sway. The students are surprised by the new addition, but Makoto explains they won't learn much by always outnumbering their opponent. Abelia questions if Sif and Yuno have equal strength, and Makoto confirms they do. The students are then defeated by them, feeling their planning was futile. Later, Makoto informs Shiki about Rembrandt's request to bring his daughters home, seeking advice. Jean interrupts, informing Makoto the students want to speak with him. They request summer training, willing to pay for it. Makoto ponders if this is their collective desire. Sif and Yuno express their willingness to stay for 6 months and ask for training. Makoto asks Shiki to check his schedule, but Shiki suggests only 1 lesson per week, which disappoints Makoto. Seeing the eager faces of his students, he agrees to weekly lessons but insists Sif and Yuno return home for part of the break due to their recovery, which they reluctantly accept. Meanwhile, Eva searches for a book to thank Makoto for his protection. Although he declines her offer of land, she resolves to find a suitable book instead. The students finally defeat Liddy, and Shiki praises their effort. After healing, they face a stronger Liddy but are overpowered. The scene shifts to the other students fighting Zwei, where Miss Ra urges Sif to finish him off, angering Zwei. Sif holds back, leading Zwei to defeat them easily. Later, Makoto apologizes to the students for their defeat against Zwei. They inquire about Zwei's sudden increase in strength. Makoto reveals that blue lizards like Zwei are actually stronger than low-ranking dragons, and they had been holding back during their fights. The students are surprised by this revelation and question why Zwei used more strength towards the end. Makoto explains that Zwei is female, and when they insulted her, she became angry. Despite this setback, Makoto encourages them not to give up and suggests a rematch. Afterward, Makoto treats them to dinner at 5 Irons, and they leave in good spirits. Makoto asks Shiki if he advised them, and Shiki confirms he suggested they raise their levels by fighting monsters. Makoto recalls they are Adventurers Guild members and could benefit from the Pervert Dragon system if they level up. He trusts they won't become overly ambitious. Shiki assures Makoto they will be fine, as he directed them to a safe leveling spot. Makoto appreciates the help but acknowledges they won't be completely safe. He gets an idea and wonders if they still have bananas in the shop. The scene shifts to the students defeating monsters in the wild, gaining 8 levels in 1 day. They credit Shiki and Makoto's lessons for their progress. Abelia expresses her affection for Shiki. They set up camp for the night and encounter a demodragon the next day. Despite their average level of 75, they attempt to fight it. However, the dragon paralyzes them with its roar and prepares to attack with its breath. Eris intervenes, capturing the dragon with her magic and defeating it with ice magic before disappearing. Confused, the students wonder who Eris is, while Makoto silently acknowledges that the bananas were the reason they were saved. This brings an end to our episode. We find Makoto approaching the guild master with a determined expression, expressing his desire to enhance his mana. The guild master is taken aback, questioning Makoto's intentions as he already possesses more mana than most others. Makoto clarifies that he seeks to increase the amount of mana he can wield at once. The guild master warns Makoto about the common belief that one's mana capacity cannot be expanded. He cautions Makoto that if any research organization discovers his increased mana level, they may subject him to extensive studies. Makoto's friend marvels at his determination and asks for the secret behind his strength. Makoto modestly explains that he simply practices arc pulling daily and gifts his friend a book on mana training techniques, considering his friend's roles as a teacher, merchant, and aspiring scholar. Expressing gratitude, Makoto accepts the book, eagerly anticipating the upcoming summer break. He recalls feeling tense before vacations, filled with plans and aspirations. His friend bids him a joyful break as the scene transitions to the academy. Makoto engages in conversation with Eva, the librarian, who commends him for his dedication to training students during the summer holidays. She notes the absence of many full-time teachers on vacation, expressing her gratitude for teachers like Makoto who remain committed to their duty. Eva hands Makoto a book she specially selected for him, knowing his keen interest in mana usage. She explains that she chose this book for him due to its unique theories tailored for those with discerning tastes in science, believing Makoto will appreciate its contents as a fellow enthusiast of mana manipulation. Makoto expresses his intrigue about the book but mentions he has other plans for the summer break. Eva chuckles at his enthusiasm, remarking that he sounds just like a student. As the summer days pass swiftly, Makoto finds himself engrossed in various activities, including reading, training, and attending to administrative tasks. 2 weeks fly by, and we see Makoto strolling with Emma, who apologizes for her busy schedule filled with approvals and reports. Makoto reassures her, mentioning that once the break ends, he'll be occupied with responsibilities again. He expresses his desire to spend as much time as possible with everyone before then. Emma, touched by his sentiments, expresses her gratitude for having a president like him and becomes emotional. Makoto consoles her and suggests focusing on the day's agenda. The scene shifts to Makoto's determination as he prepares for a training battle with the Wing, a formidable opponent known for their strength and aerial advantage. The battle takes place in the forest, out of sight from prying eyes. Emma bids Makoto luck and departs, leaving him to face the Wing alone. As the Wing group appears in the sky, Makoto initiates the encounter by launching magical shots, effectively hitting each member. He observes their vulnerability to long-range attacks and their weak defense, identifying potential strategies to exploit their weaknesses. Makoto launches magical projectiles at the Wing and swiftly switches to using fire to target them. He reflects on Emma's warning about the Wing's strength, but finds them to be little more than airborne targets. Suddenly, President Kaiken arrives, riding atop a bird schooner, which surprises Makoto as he realizes the wind can transform into such creatures. He ponders how they will handle long-range attacks. Undeterred, Makoto continues his barrage, but both the bird and President Kaiken remain unaffected. The bird then employs a reinforcement and wind spell, signaling a suicidal attack. Makoto discerns their intentions and braces himself as the bird charges towards him. He seizes the bird by its beak and forcefully slams it to the ground. President Kaiken then confronts Makoto, and the bird reverts to shunne. As Makoto prepares to counter with fire, President Kaiken yields, signaling an end to the battle. Makoto and Emma stand before the Winged, where Makoto candidly remarks on their over-reliance on flight ability. He warns them that in future encounters, Arcs and others will exploit this weakness. Additionally, he advises against suicide attacks, which make them easy targets for concentrated fire. He encourages the Wing to hone their skills and strive for improvement. Makoto responds, unsure whether the person is a boy or a girl, but the individual clarifies that they are indeed a boy. They address Makoto as their lord and express their desire to join in developing and exploring the land, as well as arranging the secondary space. Makoto explains that everyone can contribute to arranging the secondary space, but it's ultimately his responsibility. However, he gently explains that the boy's abilities aren't quite suited for the task of developing the secondary space. This disappoints the boy, and tears well up in his eyes. Makoto consoles him, urging him not to cry and instead focus on developing his strength. Later, as evening falls, Makoto sits on the balcony, contemplating outer space. He speaks to himself, referencing a book, explaining that when a large amount of mana is continuously released, it can create a weak barrier of colored mana. This barrier becomes visible as mana is released, eventually becoming tangible. Frustrated, Makoto flips off his chair, feeling overwhelmed and exclaiming that he doesn't understand anything, feeling that such discussions are only comprehensible to nobles and those of exceptional intelligence. The scene shifts to Makoto walking with Kyudo in the forest, discussing mana. Makoto asserts that simply releasing mana is sufficient, demonstrating his immense power by continuously releasing a barrier while unleashing a massive amount of mana. Like a tank cannon, he fires rapid, large shots of mana. Suddenly, he experiences a peculiar sensation, feeling as though he's been transported to another world. In the early morning, Makoto wakes up to the surprise of Mio and Tomo calling out to him. They question why he wasn't in his room all night, as it's unusual for him to sleep outside. Makoto explains that he spent the night releasing the barrier and pondering matters, feeling like it's something he's experienced before. Grateful for their help, he suggests they return to their rooms. Confused, Mio and Tomo exchange looks, unsure why Makoto is thanking them. They head back home, where Mio prepares a delicious breakfast. Makoto expresses his gratitude for the meal, but Mio humbly admits that she's still learning. Meanwhile, Tomo eyes the food, particularly the kaki and mashed tofu salad, but quickly restrains herself, following the etiquette of eating what's in front of her first and using her right hand. Makoto gets in touch with Tomo, curious if she truly adores the kaki from the secondary space. Tomo enthusiastically confirms her love for it, jokingly imagining burying herself in a mountain of kaki someday. Makoto chuckles and advises her not to take her love for kaki too far. Soon after, Mio chimes in, warning Tomo to behave or risk losing her kaki privileges. After several days, Makoto is seen once again practicing with mana. He's finally mastered the technique of creating a barrier outside his body. With a newfound skill, he unleashes spells rapidly, resembling a machine gun. Determined not to lose consciousness this time, Makoto recalls studying this method diligently from a book. He employs a combination of techniques, including eyebrow kai to conceal his barrier, before chanting mysterious hymns and words to unleash his full power. Surprised by the outcome, Makoto marvels at the physical manifestation of mana, which obediently follows his movement. He tests his newfound strength by headbutting a tree, shattering it without feeling any pain. Confident in his abilities, Makoto resolves to face any formidable foe, even the Dragon Slayer, without fear of injury. For the sake of the secondary space, Makoto is willing to sacrifice himself if necessary, preferring to bear the burden of conflict alone and shield others from harm. The morning arrived, marking the midpoint of Makoto's summer break. Curious about his newfound abilities, Makoto voiced his question aloud. Tomo, one of his companions, explained that these abilities were actually skills learned by Makoto's students who were training diligently in the secondary space. They were eager to demonstrate their progress to him. Intrigued, Makoto agreed to witness their achievements. To showcase their skills, they set up a large rock for everyone to demonstrate their magic on, with the strength of their spells measured by the impact. Shiki was eager to showcase his magic, but Mayu, not interested in the competition, suggested a cooking contest instead. The competition commenced with the High Orcs, represented by Agairs and Emma. While Emma was recognized as the most powerful sorceress among the High Orcs, she typically handled various tasks. Nonetheless, she displayed impressive magical prowess, earning 78 points alongside her friend, much to Tamer's amazement. Next up were the Fog Lizards, who unleashed their formidable power into the sky. Makoto, puzzled by their display, sought an explanation from Tamawai. She speculated that they were perhaps trying to impress the winged beings. The Fog Lizards' performance earned them 68 points. Now, Makoto successfully breaks the ice barrier on the rock. MW announces that it's their turn next. Tamoi questions MW's sudden interest in combat skills, given their previous disinterest. MW clarifies that although they aren't keen on new skills, they didn't want to miss the chance to showcase another hobby besides cooking. Makoto inquires if MW is referring to what they saw on the memory vault. Then, Mayu employs her magic to create a prototype hero suit, signaling the beginning of the final participation. Meanwhile, Shiki arrives, prompting Tomo to note his apparent acquisition of a new ability. Shiki demonstrates his power by wielding his massive sword, earning admiration from Tomo. She recalls that the dwarves crafted the weapon for him with the intent to challenge dragons, hence earning him the moniker Demon Slayer. Anticipating a future battle against Mitsurugi, Makoto, with Shiki's assistance, strikes the rock and finally manages to break it. Makoto praises Shiki's physical prowess, despite acknowledging its ineffectiveness against dragons. Tomo commends Makoto's efforts, but reminds him of the importance of accuracy in combat. She reassures him that Shiki is observing their progress and training, highlighting Makoto's role as an example for him. Additionally, she suggests the possibility of showcasing her own skills, a sentiment echoed by Mio, who anticipates Makoto unveiling a new skill. As Makoto unleashes his magic, everyone watches in amazement. Makoto internally notes that this is the first time he's wielded such a large amount of mana without using the Brow of Kai. His magical display leaves everyone astonished. Shaky remarks that Makoto's power has manifested in its most concentrated form. Makoto elaborates, explaining that his magic amplifies his spells and acts as a robust shield. With a strike of his magic, Makoto destroys the target, evoking fear among the spectators. Despite his accomplishment, Makoto seeks their opinions, but nobody responds. Reflecting later, Makoto realizes he got carried away by the excitement of the moment. Addressing Tadance, Makoto expresses concern about a potential threat posed by a bear he encountered, emphasizing the need for action. Next, we find Makoto, who receives news from Tomo regarding an injured orc that once safeguarded the forest and received a warning. With Shiki back at the academy, Emma provides care for them. Makoto then queries Emma about the attack's location, and she points out it's in the northern part of the forest. He ponders if this relates to the peculiar weather changes in the secondary space. Emma proposes that setting up a fog gate in the right spot could stabilize the weather. They discuss the possibility of further investigation, although they might have to confront these monsters first. Mayu becomes thrilled upon learning that bear meat is considered a delicacy, especially its right paw. Makoto responds by informing her that in certain regions of Japan, bears hold sacred significance, while wolves are revered as the forest's monarchs. However, he reassures them that he will attempt to communicate with them. Tomo then questions why he holds bears and wolves in such high esteem, and Makoto explains that they are extraordinary beings to him, akin to dragons in fictional worlds. As Tomo mentions dragons, she reveals herself as one. Turning to Miu, she inquires about spiders, and Makoto explains that exceptional spiders also contribute by consuming pests. Next, we find Makoto strolling alone through the rainy forest, pondering why the monsters have yet to appear. He gazes at a tree and notices dragon claw marks, indicating their proximity. Suddenly, a noise startles him from behind, and he turns to face a massive bear. As the bear grows agitated, Makoto readies himself for combat, and we witness his attire transforming into a crimson hue. In a surprising turn, he vanishes and reemerges behind the bear, gently touching its back and expressing astonishment at its softness, unaware that these are space bears. Enraged, the bear lunges at Makoto, who chooses peace over aggression, pacifying the bear with a strike. Surveying the surroundings, he locates the wolf's position and introduces himself as Mizuma Makoto, arriving with peaceful intentions. Suddenly, the wolf charges towards him, but Makoto employs slime magic to startle it, revealing numerous wolves in the vicinity. The wolf leader reveals that they sensed an unusual mana flow days prior, and Makoto acknowledges that he likely caused it. The wolf inquires if Makoto is the ruler of the land, to which Makoto clarifies that he has no interest in dominion. He merely came to extend apologies as neighbors, suggesting future communication before venturing into the forest. Additionally, Makoto offers assistance to the wolves whenever needed. Surprised by his benevolent approach, the wolf questions how Makoto, despite his immense power, entrusts them with their territory and lives. Makoto explains that he doesn't intend to shield them, but rather coexist alongside them, encouraging them to continue safeguarding the forest as they always have. The wolf questions the benefits of this arrangement, to which Makoto expresses his desire for friendship, aiming to foster camaraderie between wolves and bears. The following morning, amidst the forest, everyone remains present when suddenly a large bear arrives, emitting hearty laughter. Apologizing for the interruption, he introduces himself as Paybeni. A young bear perches atop his head as Paybeni engages in conversation with Makoto. While accepting their friendship, Paybeni asserts their autonomy in governing the forest, a condition to which Makoto readily agrees. Observing the interaction, the wolf remarks on Makoto's intriguing nature, but expresses doubt about their group's concurrence. Paybeni reassures him, affirming that any dissent within their group will be addressed. With unanimous consent, they pledge to collaborate with Makoto. The scene shifts to Makoto, Tomo, and the charming little girl, surrounded by abundant oranges. Makoto advises them against picking every fruit they encounter. The little girl apologizes, prompting Makoto to introduce the concept of kakeki. Rather than harvesting all the oranges from a tree, they leave some behind for a bountiful yield the following year, benefiting other creatures too. When Tomo attempts to pluck an orange, Makoto intervenes, halting her. Suddenly, a colossal bird makes its appearance, causing Tomo to prepare for a confrontation. However, the bird requests her to halt, stating that it has arrived to introduce itself to King Makoto. Having learned about the recent events from the wolves, the bird vanishes. Tomo remarks on the mysterious nature of mythical creatures dwelling in the secondary space, emphasizing that surprises are always in store. Makoto acknowledges her sentiment, expressing his own fascination with her world. He notes that mythical creatures are absent in Japan. The previous day, the bird reappears before Makoto in a smaller form. Makoto warmly welcomes it, and the bird introduces itself as Jamud, the ruler of the sky and mountains, delighted to make his acquaintance. Surprised, Makoto recalls having heard of Jamud before. Jamud explains its intention to monitor the sky for Makoto henceforth, offering to relay any relevant information or developments. Makoto consents, urging Jamud to carry out its duties diligently. Jamud then makes a request, expressing a fondness for the name Stonebird mentioned by Makoto and asking permission to adopt it. Makoto agrees, officially christening the bird as Stonebird. Overjoyed, the bird pledges to identify itself as Stonebird henceforth. Makoto shares his feeling of gaining more followers with Tomo, but she corrects him, suggesting that those who haven't entered into a contract with him should be viewed as subjects rather than followers. Makoto inquires if Tomo feels envious, catching her off guard. Perplexed, Tomo asks for clarification. Makoto swiftly apologizes, acknowledging his impulsive remark. He affirms that his true companions are Tomo, Mayu, and Shiki. Proposing they depart, he offers to assist with the baskets, but Tomo insists she can manage alone, showcasing her strength by carrying them effortlessly. She jests about being the leader and compares herself to the large bird mentioned earlier. Observing Tomo's diminutive stature, Makoto humorously comments that the baskets seem to move on their own, indicating Tomo's petite size. The scene transitions to dusk, where a boy awaits someone, and a girl approaches, apologizing for her tardiness. The boy reassures her, stating he didn't wait long. The boy and girl, both students of Makoto, head to a cafe together for refreshments. The girl inquires if Sheikaisan accompanied him, sensing a hint of jealousy. Clarifying, she asks about Sheikaisan's preference in women, prompting a deeper conversation, which they hadn't engaged in before. The girl mentions the exclusion of scholarship students with declining grades, highlighting the competitive nature among peers. The boy expresses his desire to defeat a dragon-like creature before the summer break ends, believing it to be an attainable feat. Recalling a previous encounter where victory seemed possible, he shares his determination. His friend expresses confidence in their shared goal of defeating the dragon. Turning the conversation, she asks him about his reason for attending the academy and whether he was discovered. Affirming his discovery, he redirects the question to her. The other girl candidly admits that meeting Makoto was instrumental in her success. When asked about her return home, she reveals her lack of a home, having lost her mother to a pandemic after her father's separation from the family. The boy empathizes, revealing his own reason for not returning home, a formidable figure in his village. This girl named Miranda was an orphan who bravely battled monsters and tackled difficult tasks. She fought against injustice with unwavering determination. Continuing to confront injustice head-on, Miranda's friend questioned if she was his teacher or someone else. He revealed that she was his first love, and he assisted her in her endeavors. One day, the village tasked them with investigating the forbidden forest, seeking to conquer its terrifying depths. While wandering the village with his beloved Miranda, he remarked on her lack of sociability. Venturing into the forest, they stumbled upon a magical workshop. Suddenly, a massive monster attacked, hurling the child aside. Despite his pleas for her safety, Miranda bravely confronted the creature, defeating it with sheer determination. The child was stunned by Miranda's actions, questioning if she was truly human. That encounter marked the last time he saw her. Returning to reality, the student confided in his friend about his inability to forgive the village or himself for his past weaknesses. Determined to seek redemption, he honed his skills and seized the opportunity presented by the Academy's offer when they discovered him. His goal was to find Miranda and apologize for his past doubts, aspiring to become as strong as her and seek forgiveness. His friend remarked that defeating the dragon-like creature would be a greater challenge. The scene then shifts to Makoto in his room with his friends, where they inform him about a rematch against the dragon-like creature. Jin and his lively companions desire another battle, unbeknownst to Makoto. Makoto understands why they kept it secret from him, thinking he might get upset. He reflects on how kids their age love testing themselves, but his sisters, Rembrandt, have returned home. Shiki adds that he didn't inform them either because he's been keeping an eye on the sisters and Toshijik and even arranged a training spot for them. Now they're back in Roots Guard and working with the other students on a plan. Considering his students' current ability, Makoto doubts they can handle defeating the dragon imposter. He decides to let them handle it alone, encouraging self-reliance, and won't ask Iris to monitor them this time. But Iris reveals that it won't be easy as a herd of dragon imposters has gathered around a water pool. Makoto is surprised because even one dragon imposter would cause panic, let alone a whole herd. Shiki suggests Makoto investigate the area, to which Makoto agrees. Regarding the students, Iris suggests leaving one of them to search for dragon imposters. Makoto decides to confront the herd himself, wanting to test his mana skills. Later, Shiki waits in the forest for the dragon imposters and discovers some strange things, suspecting they might be part of rituals and could lead to finding a sacred treasure. He comes across the dragon's fang, a long-lost secret of Elysian from the destroyed country. Shiki then contacts Makoto, asking if he's spotted any altars or bloodstains in his location. Makoto recognizes the situation, recalling a similar ritual that summoned the dragon imposters. He suspects it's the work of demons and instructs Shiki to keep moving while he deals with the imposters. Approaching the herd, Makoto uses his magic to snatch one of the dragon imposters and flies off with it, utilizing his abilities despite not being proficient in wind magic. Landing amidst the herd, he defends against their attacks, remarking on their strength but stating he's not their enemy. Meanwhile, Shiki engages in combat with demons, expressing surprise at finding opposition against the current Demon King. The demon he confronts explains their hatred towards the king due to his exceptional leadership, highlighting the complexities within organizations. After dispatching the demons, Shiki reflects on his mission, feeling uncertain due to incomplete information. Returning to Makoto after eliminating the dragon imposters, he realizes he still needs to gather dragon imposter meat as Mayu requested. Feeling drained from using his mana extensively, he acknowledges that only the students' return battle remains. The students stand before the last dragon imposter, preparing to engage. They strategize and attack from various angles, combining their magic and strength to defeat it. With their victory, they celebrate their newfound strength and resolve to continue improving. The scene then shifts to an abandoned house, where a boy and girl engage in a conversation about heroes, demons, and wars. Reflecting on the relentless nature of the world, the girl remarks on the importance of comparison. When asked about her presence there, she recounts a battle with a legendary creature and the start of her journey. The boy, reminiscing about his friend Miranda, expresses determination to confront the remaining great dragons. This brings an end to our episode 12. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Later, Makoto learns about the upcoming Academy Festival, a grand event that draws people from all corners of the land, filling every shop to the brim. This week-long celebration brings unparalleled vibrance to the city. Shiki informs Makoto about the festival's competitive tournament, exciting the students under Makoto's tutelage. Makoto realizes that this tournament also serves as a platform for diplomatic assessments by guests from Limia and Britannia, akin to job hunting for students. Hoping for a smooth event, Makoto shifts his focus to his store. Shiki expresses interest in discussing festival inventory with Makoto, who suggests waiting for the arrival of the additional items list later that night. As they converse, Ludo arrives, suggesting they attend the festival together. However, Makoto declines, mentioning Tamo and Mio's attendance, suggesting Ludo accompany them instead. Discussing staffing needs, Makoto proposes hiring dwarves, prompting Ludo to remark on Makoto's kindness towards demihumans, teasingly suggesting disdain for humans. Makoto brushes off the comment and asks Ludo to leave. As Ludo departs, he mentions attending to guild duties. Later, Makoto expresses disbelief at Ludo being the guild master, anticipating encounters with important figures during the festival. Rumors of Ludo's alias false and his intriguing experiments intrigue Makoto, sparking curiosity about the research. A temple priest named Shinai visits Makoto, who apologizes for his inability to speak due to a curse. Shinai questions the curse's nature, prompting Makoto to confirm it. Shinai then addresses concerns about Makoto's potent yet affordable medicines, steering clear of divine implications. Makoto suspects ulterior motive, but Shinai suggests a solution, allowing temples to oversee sales to dispel rumors. However, they request insight into Makoto's production methods for inspection, promising confidentiality. Makoto agrees to share his production methods with the temple, understanding that they could replicate similar products. Considering past involvement of temple members in experiments and the previous bishop's demise at the hands of Rona, Makoto sees the value in establishing connections with the temple. The priest arranges a meeting for the next day, leading to Makoto's visit to the temple. He marvels at its grandeur but questions its dedication to what he considers an undeserving deed. Meeting the bishop, Makoto learns of their intention to address misconceptions about his store and explore solutions for his muteness. As the bishop and her aides depart, Shinai initiates discussions about the medicine-making process, expressing a desire to delve into further inquiries while the alchemists work. The scene shifts to Makoto and Shinai engaged in conversation, with Shinai inquiring about Makoto's duration as a merchant. Makoto reveals it's been less than 3 years, surprising Shinai with the fact that Makoto has established shops in 2 cities in such a short span. Shinai wonders if Makoto has a significant supporter, but Makoto clarifies that while he lacks a personal backer, the Rembrandt Trading Company has been supportive. Shinai expresses skepticism, noting that the Rembrandt he knows isn't typically cooperative with the church. Makoto recalls Rembrandt's change in attitude toward the goddess after the disease incident, leading Shinai to speculate about Makoto's connection with Rembrandt's daughter. Makoto explains that Rembrandt entrusted him with watching over his daughters out of love for them, potentially altering Shinai's opinion of Rembrandt. After Makoto and Shiki depart, Shinai informs the bishop that they've dispatched servants to tail them. Unimpressed, the bishop instructs Shinai to seek her approval for all matters regarding Makoto, citing failed attempts to probe Makoto's mind and mana. The bishop expresses concern over Makoto's unconventional production methods, indicating that while the explanations were clear, the methods were exceptional. The temple nuns suggest that with their ability, success would only have a 50% likelihood, necessitating a price increase of 100 times to cover production costs. The bishop accuses Makoto of feigning innocence, suggesting he could become a valuable asset in the future. The scene shifts to Jean conversing with Eris at Makoto's store. Eris asserts her ability to defeat Blue Lizard, prompting Jean's excitement. He requests her to teach him some incantations just as Makoto returns. Makoto inquires about Eris and Jean's newfound rapport, incentivizing Aqua to disclose the information with the promise of banana milk crafted for the festival. Reluctantly, Aqua reveals they've been getting along well. Pleased, Makoto fulfills his promise, and Aqua enjoys the milk. Meanwhile, Eris imparts magical knowledge to Jean, who attempts to inquire about Blue Lizard. Makoto intervenes before sensitive details are divulged, questioning Eris about returning to the demiplane bootcamp. Apologizing, Eris beseeches Makoto's mercy, and he leaves her under Shiki's care. Addressing Jean, Makoto warns against cheating in class and proceeds with deliveries. As he observes the city's festival preparations, he senses being trailed. Feigning ignorance, he navigates into an abandoned alley, where he confronts the assassins tailing him, recognizing them as from the Assassin Guild. Employing his mana armor and fire birds, Makoto neutralizes most assailants. One remains, identified as the same individual who previously attacked him. Wondering if it's for revenge, the assassin claims it's his duty to fulfill every job. Makoto observes his newly repaired blade, learning it's crafted from Mitsurugi the Greater Dragon's scales. Impressed, he acknowledges its suitability for an assassin, prompting an attack from the assassin. However, Makoto's armor withstands the onslaught, and he ends the scuffle with a punch to the assassin's gut. Intent on settling matters with Professor Blight, Makoto engages the remaining assassins. Afterward, feeling agitated, he seeks solace through archery practice in the demiplane, where Tomo joins him. Makoto inquires about her investigation into the demiplane's climate, learning she's identified an ideal location to open a mist gate, mimicking Japan's climate by 95%. Tomo reveals the chosen site is demon-controlled, with a nearby fortress. Concerned about attracting demon attention, Makoto hesitates. Tomo proposes clearing the area with his approval, though Makoto opts to ponder the decision to avoid provoking the demon. Preferring to focus on the upcoming festival, Makoto postpones the decision. The next day, Tomo and Mio explore the lively festival. Meanwhile, Makoto awakens late, hurries to his shop, and finds it bustling with activity, his staff struggling to cope. Makoto inquires about Lime and the new elder dwarf, and Shiki informs him they're outside, managing the line to prevent disruption to neighboring shops. Curious about sales, Makoto learns they're nearly finished for the day, with adventurers flocking from far and wide due to word of mouth. Considering implementing numbered tickets or vouchers when supplies run low, Shiki recalls the Merchant Guild provided them with vouchers. Apologizing for not consulting Makoto earlier, Shiki explains Mio and Tomo prevented him from waking Makoto to let him rest. Grateful for Shiki's efforts, Makoto wonders about Mio and Tomo's current activities. Shiki mentions they're exploring the festival with Ludo. After checking inventory, Makoto sets out on his rounds, encountering a group from Laurel outside their store before dealing with a rude customer. Later, Makoto and friends enjoy hot pot at Five Irons, with Mio and Tomo particularly enjoying the meal. Amidst the merriment, Shiki attempts an unconventional mix of mayonnaise in his cream hot pot. Luria arrives with more food, assuring they have sufficient staff, including Eva, who's assisting with dishwashing. Surprised by Eva's role, Makoto expresses hope that his students will excel in the tournament the following day, reflecting on their hard work. Makoto suggests they gather to watch the matches and soak in the festival's atmosphere. Meanwhile, in Rosgard, emissaries from Laurel engage in a conversation with Limia's king, requesting the return of their priestess. The king explains she willingly joined Hibiki's party. The emissary alleges Limia kidnapped their priestess, forcing her into perilous battles, which they deem a grave issue. However, the king reiterates that the priestess chose to accompany the hero, a matter of pride for their nation. In response, the emissary accuses Limia of holding the priestess hostage, emphasizing her significance to them. The tension between nations unfolds as each defends their stance on the priestess's involvement, hinting at deeper political complexities underlying the situation. The king suggests that if the emissaries doubt their ability to protect the priestess, they should assign their own guards. The emissary insists the priestess is irreplaceable and hopes for progress on the matter during their stay. As she departs, the king finds the situation absurd. He notes they're occupied with readying for an assault on Fort Stella, attributing their current predicament to the Empire's princess, Lily. He ponders the intentions behind the Empire's actions. Meanwhile, at the Five Irons, Makoto's group revels in drunken revelry, behaving foolishly. Makoto escorts them out, unaware that Lily is observing them from a distance, hinting at her vigilance over their activities. This brings an end to our episode 13. If you want more of this anime, subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer. The scene shifts to day 2 of the Academy Festival, where Makoto explains that the students will be evaluated based on their etiquette. The students' manners are observed at a stand-up party attended by foreign guests, where Makoto encounters Patrick Rembrandt. Later, Makoto meets Patrick's wife in the hallway, greets her, and inquires about her well-being after her journey. She assures him she's fine and expresses gratitude for his care of her husband. She also hopes he can extend his guardianship to her daughters. After their brief exchange, she departs with Patrick. Returning to the party, Makoto is approached by the representative from Laurel, who requests a private conversation. Makoto notices that the guards with her are demons, which raises concerns about her safety. They converse in a room, and Makoto wonders if they have met before. She clarifies that this is their first encounter, and expresses her interest in him. Makoto notices that Ritsu shows no surprise at his writing, leading him to believe she might be aware of him. She then introduces herself as an official from the Laurel Commonwealth, responsible for overseeing the priestess and Kimuro. Curious about Makoto's knowledge of Laurel, she asks if he's familiar with their nation. Makoto admits he doesn't know much, only that the priestess serves as a spiritual leader and Kimuro as a potential successor. He explains Laurel as a union of 3 nations, with the priestess possessing the ability to communicate with high-ranking spirits and holding significant political influence. Makoto mentions their nation's secretive nature, limiting information exchange with other countries. Ritsu finds it odd that Makoto employs something known only to a select few in Laurel, despite his claimed lack of knowledge about them. She points out the sage script characters on the Kuzunoha Company signboard, a script known to very few in Laurel. Makoto denies any prior knowledge of this script. Ritsu suggests that Makoto's familiarity with the characters could mean he's a sage. However, Makoto humbly denies being wise enough to be considered a sage. Ritsu clarifies that by sage, she means individuals from other worlds with vast knowledge beyond imagination. She directly asks Makoto if he is one, but he denies it. Ritsu observes that Makoto's appearance doesn't match those of people from their world, suggesting that sages are believed to belong to a different race. Makoto insists he's just a regular human. Ritsu assures him that Laurel offers protection to sages to prevent unfair treatment in their world. She promises to assist Makoto during his time in Laurel, and he reciprocates by agreeing to recommend any sages he encounters to visit their country. Ritsu notices Makoto's skepticism, but asserts their belief that summoned heroes, like those granted by the goddess, are also sages. She asks for Makoto's opinion on this, but he admits he's never met any heroes. Before leaving, Ritsu inquires about the specialty of their store, as Kuzu in their name means medicine. Makoto explains to Ritsu that Kuzu is the name of a plant, but he does aim to produce and distribute medicine widely. Ritsu is impressed by his knowledge of sage script, and she departs, hoping for another meeting in the future. Later, she encounters Princess Lily, who expresses surprise at Laurel's contact with Kuzunoha Trading Company. Lily is concerned about the company because of Tomoki's fixation on Tomo. She asks Ritsu about the person she met with earlier. Ritsu dismisses it as personal business and mentions that her subordinates praised the effectiveness of the store's medicine. Lily mentions rumors about the company having mostly demi-human employees and Makoto being a part-time teacher at the school. Ritsu admits she wasn't aware of these details. Learning of Ritsu's shallow connection with Kuzunoha Trading Company, Lily decides to purchase some of Makoto's medicine as a souvenir. Ritsu offers to procure the medicine for Princess Lily to save her from waiting in line, considering her royal status. Lily realizes that Ritsu is reluctant to let her interact with Makoto, so she asks for one more favor. She explains that her nation is working on new technology, which has sparked an interest in gunpowder. Lily seeks Sai Ritsu's guidance on its uses and safe handling. Sai Ritsu agrees to share information, but seems cautious. Lily suspects that Sai Ritsu is wary because of the influence Tomoki holds over demons. Despite this, Sai Ritsu agrees to help Lily. Meanwhile, Sif, Yuno, and their mother observe Makoto's discomfort at the party. Lisa, their mother, brings up rumors she's heard about their behavior at the academy. She advises them to improve their conduct before graduation, as the Rembrandt family's reputation is already tarnished. Understanding their mother's concerns, Sif and Yuno agree to mend their ways. The scene shifts to Makoto escorting Patrick and his wife out of the party. Patrick inquires about his daughter's appearance at the event, and Makoto compliments their beauty. Ilungan then arrives with his friends and confronts Makoto rudely. Makoto reminds Ilungan to address him with respect since he's a teacher, and asks him what he needs. Ilungan wonders if Makoto doesn't remember him, but Makoto can't recall who he is. This angers Ilungan, but Makoto explains that he's currently busy with guests, and suggests they discuss it tomorrow if there are any issues. Ilungan threatens not to let Makoto off the hook and leaves, vowing to defeat his students in the tournament. Patrick and Lisa are concerned, but Makoto assures them he won't allow any harm to come to his students, which comforts them. Later, Makoto asks Shiki about the student, but Shiki suggests it's someone they met soon after arriving in the city. Makoto decides to investigate further later, as he needs to accompany his students for the tournament matchup drawings the next day. The following morning, Makoto, Mio, and Tamo attend the drawing of lots. Ludo wins the chance to walk with Makoto, making Mio and Tamo jealous. Ludo seizes the opportunity, and Makoto asks him about the sage script. Ludo recognizes it as kanji from Makoto's world, prompting Makoto to inquire if they also know Japanese. Ludo explains that they have some knowledge of it, although it has evolved over time. Makoto wonders if they could understand him if he speaks Japanese, and Ludo advises him to find those answers himself to avoid future problems. He clarifies that only a summoned hero would fully understand Japanese. Mio suggests some snacks to Makoto, and Makoto tries them, finding them similar to fried chicken. Mio plans to make fried chicken for their next meal, but Tamo suggests exploring other stalls. Ludo intervenes, reminding them of their place, and escorts Makoto away. Later, at the academy, Ludo notices Lily outside and excuses himself from Makoto and the others, citing important business to attend to. Later, we witness the students drawing lots for their tournament matchups, and Mio and Tama encounter Makoto's students. Sif and Yuno mention that their father referred to Mio and Tama as Makoto's pillars of support, excluding Shiki. Mio is pleasantly surprised by this gesture. When Makoto explains that Shiki is less skilled in combat compared to Mio and Tama, the students express disbelief, realizing they still have much to learn. Tama observes Makoto's students and remarks on their intimidating appearance, understanding why Makoto watches over them. Mio disagrees, leading to a disagreement between the two. Makoto intervenes to calm them down and then asks Shiki about Ilungan's whereabouts. Shiki explains that Ilungan hasn't appeared yet but has informed Makoto's students about his tactics. He reveals that Ilungan is of noble descent in Limia and has connections to the royal family. As the second son of Hopleys, he holds significant status. Makoto warns his students that they can expect harassment from Ilungan during the match, and they must handle it without his assistance. He emphasizes that they must deal with the situation independently. Despite this, the students reassure Makoto that they will manage. Makoto then imposes some restrictions on them for the upcoming tournament. The scene shifts to the students in a room with Shiki, feeling disheartened by the limitations Makoto has set. Sif mentions that Makoto instructed her not to use composite spells. Yuno explains that Makoto instructed her to use only one weapon, while Izumo mentions he's not allowed to utilize his mobility spells. Dina adds that she can't employ her super enhancement, and Mitra mentions he's barred from using his newly acquired skills. Abelia notes that she's restricted from using her bow since she's classified as a mage, and Jean states he's forbidden from employing his dual blade style. Shiki then explains that Makoto wants them to refine their skills by imposing these restrictions, akin to hiding their trump cards. If they succeed, Makoto will consider taking on new students and allow them to progress to the next level. The scene shifts to False conversing with Lily, who inquires about his connection with Makoto. False responds that he has developed an interest in Makoto recently. Lily questions if the Kuzunoha Trading Company has the support of the guild, to which False clarifies that the guild remains neutral and doesn't align with any particular entity. Lily brings up Tomoki's desire to take Tamo from the company for himself, but it didn't happen as he hoped. She questions if she could defeat Tamo, but False assures her she cannot. He compares taking on Kuzunoha Trading Company to facing demons in a full-scale war, making Lily realize the company has formidable fighters besides Tomo. False redirects her focus to the impending war they will initiate soon, to which Lily expresses confidence. She recalls how False previously provided her with information about Sophia's betrayal and the demon rings, wondering why he assisted her. False cryptically suggests she'll understand eventually, and advises her to concentrate on building her ideal world alongside her hero for now. Lily understands that False wants her to prioritize reclaiming Fort Stella. She expresses her intention to return to the Empire if she doesn't encounter anyone noteworthy at the tournament. Later, Makoto reflects on his experience dealing with the efforts to sabotage him by nobles, finding them truly terrifying. The following day, Patrick informs Makoto about a meeting request from the Merchant Guild. Since the guild representative is an old friend of Patrick's, he agrees to attend in Makoto's place and leaves. Makoto admires Patrick's willingness to prioritize the meeting over his daughter's matches. Makoto then heads to the tournament venue and notices the matchups, realizing that all his students will be facing each other. He suspects this arrangement is the work of the Hopley's family, realizing their influence is greater than he had previously thought. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the tournament's first round, Dina secures an easy victory. Next, Mitra faces Jean, anticipated as the tournament's pinnacle clash due to both participants having a level above 90. They wield wooden swords to ensure fairness, with a 10-minute match duration. Safety measures include dolls absorbing any student-inflicted damage, and if one falls, the match ends. Participants receive 3 dolls each to prevent excessive harm. Additionally, only self-support spells are allowed. Healing and attack spells are off limits. The fight commences, with Jean launching a relentless assault on Mitra. Mitra, however, maintains a steadfast defense, much to the crowd's dismay. Tomo observes that Mitra's refined defensive tactics are effectively demoralizing his opponent. Despite both fighters sticking to the same strategy, Makoto believes that if the judges decide the match's outcome, Jean would undoubtedly emerge as the winner. When the match concludes, the judges declare Jean as the victor. Tomo acknowledges it as a commendable fight, while Mio argues that Mitra actually won. Makoto realizes that Mio meant Mitra won the fight but lost the match. Following this, the mage category students engage in battles, but their performance disappoints. Tomo and Mio find all the students, except for Makoto's, uninteresting to watch. However, despite their opinion, the crowd remains enthusiastic. Later, Abelia and Sif compete in the mage category. Sif launches an attack on Abelia, who tries to chant a spell but gets interrupted by Sif. Subsequently, Sif successfully binds Abelia with an earth spell, rendering her unable to act. With no other option, Abelia surrenders, granting Sif the victory in the match. Observing Sif's performance, Makoto predicts that she may emerge as the winner of the mage category if she continues at the same pace. A noble spectator expresses dissatisfaction with one of the Rembrandt sisters winning, suggesting that the girl might have relied on her family's wealth to obtain high-quality equipment. In response, Lily defends Sif, praising their innovative fighting styles and their willingness to explore new techniques instead of sticking to conventional methods. The noble argues that Sif's fighting style isn't suitable for a soldier or a knight, to which Lily retorts by mentioning their hero's use of aerial mobility in battle, and questioning if that's considered unfair. The King of Limia supports Lily's viewpoint, emphasizing that traditions and formalities don't necessarily minimize casualties in warfare, and such criticisms could be seen as insults to the hero. The guild master echoes Lily's sentiments, expressing admiration for Sif's fighting style, and expressing anticipation for their next match. In the second round of the tournament, Sif faces Izumo. She shields herself with earth magic, rendering Izumo's spells ineffective against her. Sif defeats him easily. In another match of the warrior category's second round, Jean swiftly overpowers Dina. Moving to the mage category finals, Sif confronts an older student who has caught the attention of the court of Limia. Using her magic, Sif buries her opponent underground, leaving him struggling to break free. Unable to escape, the student succumbs to Sif's attack. Impressed, Jean compliments her, but Sif brushes it off, saying she merely startled him. As Jean prepares for the Hopley's team tomorrow, Jean questions if Sif is also disappointed with the tournament's outcome. Sif cryptically replies, leaving Jean to wonder. Meanwhile, Jean competes against Ilumgand in the warrior category finals, noticing Ilumgand clad in full armor. Ilumgand explains that it's a family tradition for formal events, and the referee, seemingly biased toward Ilumgand, remains silent about it. Jean accepts the challenge without hesitation, and the duel commences. Ilumgand launches an attack, but Jean swiftly disarms him. However, Ilumgand retrieves his weapon and resorts to magic to augment his strength. yet Jean skillfully disarms him once again. Frustrated, Ilumgand appeals to the referee for assistance, who advises Jean to engage more actively. Jean comprehends the situation and intervenes, breaking 2 of the 3 protective dolls. With no alternative, the referee declares Jean the victor. Witnessing this, Makoto surmises that Jin's equipment might have been inferior, but his innate ability and expertise surpass expectations. Following his defeat, Ilumgand seethes with anger, plotting his vengeance in the upcoming team battle, especially against Jean. Subsequently, the scene shifts to the winners from each category preparing to face off against one another. Tomoe asserts Sif's advantage in the impending bout, a sentiment echoed by Mio. Meanwhile, Makoto speculates that Jean may still have some unanticipated tactics. As the contest begins, Sif ensnares Jean with a mud swamp spell before finishing him off with a fire spell, clinching victory in the tournament overall. Makoto reflects that only the team battle remains now. The scene transitions to Makoto meeting Rembrandt under the cover of night. Rembrandt informs Makoto that he couldn't resolve the issue at the Merchant Guild, and they've requested Makoto's presence at the guild the following day. Makoto reassures Rembrandt not to worry, but Rembrandt notes that dignitaries from various nations have taken an interest in Makoto's enterprise, signaling a pivotal moment for him. The next day at the tournament venue, Makoto and the students feel disappointed knowing Makoto won't be able to join them. Abelia finds solace in the fact that at least Shiki will be present to watch the matches. She inquires about the rule changes, learning that this time the party's total level can't exceed 365, requiring adjustments to their lineup. Sif realizes only 3 of them can participate, doubting it will be enough to sway the outcome. As the students engage in their first match, Lily remarks on their proficiency, likening their opponents to scarecrows. She admires Makoto's teaching prowess, lamenting the prospect of losing him to another nation. Jean and the team emerge victorious, impressing the king of Limia with their skillful performance. Joshua informs the king that their teacher is Makoto, and that he represents the Kuzunoa Trading Company. The king reflects on the existence of undiscovered talents in the world. The scene shifts to Makoto meeting Zara Hardy, leader of the Rosgard Merchants Guild branch. Makoto expresses his honor at meeting Zara, who remarks that Makoto should have come earlier if it truly was an honor. Makoto explains that he had to wait a month for an appointment. Zara reveals that he's been tasked with investigating the Kuzunoa Trading Company's merchandise and distribution due to concerns about demonic assistance. Makoto asserts the honesty of his business, backed by the temple's quality guarantees. However, Zara raises concerns about distribution, citing a lack of road travel records for Makoto's carts and wagons. Unable to disclose the demiplane, Makoto suggests they use the same roads as other companies, but borrow carts and wagons from Rembrandt Trading Company, leaving no travel records under his company's name. Zara presents Makoto with a document comparing the materials he bought to those used in his products, revealing discrepancy. Makoto expresses surprise, stating he would have cooperated if asked about the investigation. Zara asserts that the guild decides innocence, and expects Makoto to cooperate willingly. Makoto agrees to cooperate to clear his name but is met with Zara's criticism for his naivety. Puzzled by the situation, Makoto asks directly what Zara wants from him. Zara demands Makoto submit his distribution methods to the guild, shared with other merchants. Makoto hesitates, considering resolving the issue with money, but Zara dismisses this, suggesting Makoto's offer implies guilt and breaches trust. Zara chastises Makoto for misjudgment, reminding him of the powerful companies against him and Rembrandt's involvement. He insists Makoto pay 90% of his monthly profits, deeming it necessary given the angered company's vast earnings compared to Makoto's. Makoto agrees to pay, feeling disheartened that honesty doesn't hold much value in this situation. Zara criticizes Makoto for his idealism, suggesting that Makoto should only sell to demihumans given his store's employment practices. He implies that setting up a store outside the city would remove restrictions. This infuriates Makoto. Zara dismisses the strength of Makoto's followers, warning that any violence would associate Makoto's company with demons. He advises Makoto to shut down his store and return to Sage if he refuses to comply with the demands. Makoto finds this patronizing, considering the circumstances. Zara implies that by complying, Rembrandt will owe him a favor, which prompts Makoto to worry if he's causing trouble for Rembrandt. Zara insists that Makoto must disclose his distribution methods. However, Makoto keeps the secret of the demiplane and mentions that one of his followers uses teleportation magic for transportation. The scene shifts to Makoto back at his store, where he recounts the encounter to Mio and the others, sparking anger in Mio. The rest of the group tries to calm her down. Tomo advises Makoto not to let it affect him, but Mio expresses frustration, believing their master's intention was to provide affordable medicines, not to appease profit-driven merchants. Tomo assures everyone that their master hasn't made any mistakes. Such situations are just part of the business. She suggests to Makoto that they could seize this chance to distance themselves from humanity. Makoto acknowledges that he indeed plans to form bonds with demons eventually, a sentiment echoed by Shiki, who highlights the demons' greater tolerance towards other species compared to humans. Mio argues that Makoto shouldn't serve someone who takes advantage of his kindness. Makoto agrees with Tomo's viewpoint, expressing his intention to foster connections with demons. He reveals his plan to acquire the land scouted by Tomo after the Academy Festival, potentially indebting himself to the demons. Additionally, he aims to continue dealings with humans while nurturing ties with demons, intending to procure land in Kilnian, which holds sentimental value as his parents' homeland and the birthplace of Eva and Luria. Asserting that Kilnian is also their homeland, Makoto plans to consult Eva and Luria on this matter. He shares the entirety of his plan with the group, prompting Tomo to remark that this could be the solution to their current predicaments. The group unanimously supports his decision, leading Makoto to conclude that he won't hesitate anymore. Considering that the two heroes have allied themselves with humans, Makoto believes there should be no issue with the third man from another world overlooking some of the demons' actions. This brings an end to our episode 15. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.